higher. So it all balances out in many situations. But all across the nation, we're still seeing, decreased buyer activity, and in many markets also increased seller activity. So it's different from market to market for sure.
So, I'm still trying to understand exactly what, as a buyer and a seller, what you should do first and foremost if you're in the market right now.
So if you're in the market right now as a buyer, I would focus on a couple of things. Is you want to get pre-approved and understand what your payment is going to be. Do that first, because that's number one, to have your ducks in a row, have your financing in order, and be ready to pull the trigger if you do have one, if you do see something you like. I always recommend a buyer maybe go and look for a house that's been on the market for a while, maybe 30 days or 60 days, because in this market, no matter where you are, properties that have been on the market 30, 60, 90 days, you have a much better opportunity to get a better price, because they've already been able to expose themselves to the marketplace and find out, are they overpriced? And so for the buyer, they can be they can be at a more advantage. It's been on the market 30, 60, 90 days. And go maybe look at those first instead of ones that have been on the market just a year or two, because it will be a more competitive situation. For sellers, my number one advice for sellers is don't price the house too high coming out of the gate. You want to price it very aggressively so that you get as many people through the property as quickly as possible. So be realistic when you set that value in today's market. Another thing that a seller needs to be aware of or ready for is if you have a good buyer with a reasonable offer, and they tend to hesitate a little bit, one thing that you can do is offer a rate buy down. So offering some cost assistance to maybe help them, instead of a 6.5% interest rate, maybe they can buy that rate down to maybe about 6%, let's say. And then the last thing for sellers is don't test the market by starting high and then continuing to decrease the price, because it'll get stale and it's not a good strategy.
Ryan Rogers, real estate specialist out of Austin, Texas. We appreciate the points, the finer points here, and some tips out there for buyers and sellers. Thanks very much.
We had some overnight storms that packed a punch, even a few severe thunderstorm warnings overnight, especially north of Memphis, but most of those storms ended quickly, and now we have a lingering front across the Mid-South. That's going to be the focus for more isolated to scattered showers and thunderstorms as we go through the next few days. Now, it may not be a washout in all areas, and some of you may not see as much as others, but definitely going to be in a warm, somewhat muggy pattern across much of the region. Let's show you what this lingering front will do. It kind of hangs out just to the south of Memphis and eventually will move back north of the area. And as it does, again, there could be showers or thunderstorms on either side of it, but there will be several dry periods as well all the way through the weekend. So let's talk about the short-term. Futurecast shows dry conditions this morning as we go through the afternoon. There could be a pop-up shower or thunderstorm, especially in areas where those storms earlier this morning died out. So even here in Memphis and Shelby County, parts of northeast Mississippi, maybe northeast Arkansas as well. Looks dry tomorrow, temperatures around 70 or so. And then the coverage of showers and storms tomorrow afternoon, a little bit higher, I think, as we go to the afternoon and evening hours. So we'll have to watch for some heavy rain, some gusty wind, nothing severe really with any of this, but certainly there could be some stronger storms that have even some intense lightning as well. You can go back 12 hours and look at this big cluster that came out of Missouri overnight, and it just raced across the Mid-South from the north. The models picked up pretty well on this yesterday and the potential for it, and so they moved through and then just kind of fell apart as they entered into northeast Mississippi. 86 for a high today, clouds, some sunshine. and an isolated downpour can't be ruled out in the afternoon. Maybe a storm or two, but I think it's just some isolated spots with heavy rain. Here's a look at high temperatures today. 87 in Covington and Ripley, 86 in Somerville, West Tennessee, warming up. We hit 87 yesterday in Memphis, very close to the same thing today, maybe as high as 88 or 89 in Tunica and Marks, back toward Corinth around 86, and it looks like upper 80s across much of eastern Arkansas. As we check out the first alert 7-day forecast, those temperatures will be in the mid 80s, maybe some low 80s, and again, coverage may be a little higher in some spots tomorrow or Thursday, but as we head toward the weekend, just some spotty showers here and there, temperatures hanging in the mid to upper 80s.
Good morning, everyone. Andrew Douglas in the Action News 5 digital desk. Inflation and interest rates, they are still running hot, leaving many consumers hesitant to spend money on items and activities that they truly love. And there's also concerns of a recession. If we're headed towards one, if we're in one right now, let's bring in a smart shopping expert, Trey Bodge, to talk more about consumers and their spending habits, what they're concerned about. Trey, good morning. Let's talk about the latest spending trends and the challenges that Americans face right now.
So thank you so much for having me. This is such an important topic. Obviously, as you said, inflation continues to arise, and what we are seeing right now is a bit of a spending slowdown year over year, and then from March over February, month over month. Consumers are keeping their wallets a little bit closer. They're spending less. But of course, at the same time, we're heading into summer. We're wanting to travel. We have all these gifts to give, Mother's Day, Father's Day, grads, weddings. And so it's a tough time because consumers want to spend, but may not have the money to do so. And we're obviously avoiding debt as well because debt is more expensive. So it's a little bit of a tricky time financially for many Americans.
Yeah, no question about it, Trey. And I was just going to ask you, I mean, we got Mother's Day this weekend. Next month, we have Father's Day. Got a couple graduates in my family, got to get gifts for. How do we stay on budget with all this stuff?
So that is a great question, and that is really the key point here. We want to stay on budget. So I would suggest taking a couple minutes and taking a look at your budget, seeing if there's wiggle room, and then getting a sense of how much you can spend per person, and then planning your gift giving accordingly. The other thing that I would say is look for ways to save. Because this is such a big gift giving time, a lot of retailers will be offering sales. And so you should take advantage of looking at your favorite deals site to see if you can maybe get a coupon or earn some cash back. And then also don't ignore your memberships. You might have discounts coming that you don't even know are there. So for example, if you're an AARP member and you haven't bought some flowers for mom yet, there are amazing discounts with FTD. You can save 25% site-wide right now. And there are ways to save additionally on select bouquets by using code AARP30 or AARP40 to save on select bouquets. So by taking those extra steps, you can save significantly.
I like those ideas, memberships, coupons, that sort of thing. What about celebrations? Going out and trying to fight the crowds on Mother's Day is something that nobody wants to be a part of. And I understand that maybe celebrating at home might be a better option. Tell me more.
Yeah, so I love that. I mean, I am not one to go out and fight the crowds on Mother's Day either. And obviously, sometimes there's a prefix menu and there aren't things on there that everyone wants. And so I say celebrate at home. And a great way to do that is to do it collaboratively with the people around you. Have a potluck. Everyone loves to show off their favorite or their famous cookie recipe or their chili recipe. Have everyone bring something. And that obviously impacts the amount of time that you're spending to plan and also the amount that you're spending as well financially. So that's a really good way to lighten the load and have a great time at the same time.
So after we get all this, Mother's Day, Father's Day, graduations, we're still trying to keep to that budget, stick to it as much as possible. And sometimes your health and health checkups might get in the way of that, or at least you don't want to initially spend for something like that. How can we stay on the budget, but yet still pay attention to our health to keep it at optimal levels?
Right. So throughout the pandemic, so many people stopped going to the doctor. Obviously, we were afraid to for a while, and then we just kind of put those things on the back burner. So I'm suggesting to everyone to get back on that schedule, get your regular checkups, because obviously health problems are more expensive than being healthy, right? And then I would also say if you're interested in maybe getting your hearing checked or your eyes checked, these are very important things as well. And if you happen to be an AARP member, there are ways to save on both of those areas. So believe it or not, there are ways to save on your health care as well. And so you really want to keep up with those appointments and then make sure to get your hearing and eyes checked at the same time.
Anything else, Trey, before we let you go? This has been some great ideas and suggestions for people.
Yeah, so the last thing that I would say, because interest is so high, it's really important to try to avoid credit card debt, because debt becomes more expensive when the interest rates are high. So try to stay within your budget when you're buying these gifts or hosting these gatherings, and you'll be much better for it.
All right, Trey Baj, a smart shopping expert there. We really appreciate you joining us here on the Digital Desk. Thanks for the recommendations and suggestions. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right, so now let's focus in on what happened at Baptist Memorial Hospital in East Memphis. Did you see this? This was terrible. The hospital was swarmed by police officers, and this happened for several hours there. Multiple gunshot victims arrived. Investigators say people were also trying to break into vehicles there at the hospital. This happened around 8 o'clock last night. Investigators say they were originally there after a call about 2 people being shot arriving by private vehicle. Then hospital employees called 911 about people breaking into various cars and trucks on campus there at the hospital. It resulted in a foot chase between officers and 3 different suspects, 2 men and a woman. They were eventually brought into custody, arrested by police. They also had people in the area certainly on high alert.
And everybody's asking about the police presence here, where officers on scene called for backup because of the crowd that swelled. They were trying to have them to come out for crowd control.
The original shooting victims have minor injuries. Investigators say that shooting took place at Squire Court, about 10 minutes away from Baptist Memorial Hospital in East Memphis. No one's in custody for that. MPD says that they do believe the 2 incidents are connected. No information about those 3 people arrested for auto burglary. The investigation is ongoing this morning. I want to now focus on a story that has been very, very active on social media. So much in terms of outpouring of support for the family of Steve Pearl, a 74-year-old Memphis man with a long history at a prominent church in our area. Stephen Pearl, someone who has been a member of Christ Church in East Memphis for more than 25 years. And investigators say he was killed in broad daylight in his driveway outside of his home near the University of Memphis at 6 o'clock on a Saturday morning. The killers are still on the run this morning. Bria Bolden has more.
Stephen Pearl had only lived on Watson Street in the U of M area for just over a year, but is remembered by his family and neighbors like Ames Saunders as an easygoing and selfless man.
It was just very surreal. You know, somebody you see on a daily basis and have conversations with, and then the next thing you know, they're out cold. They're out cold on the ground.
Surveillance video from Saturday morning just before 6 o'clock shows the incident. At least 2 suspects ambushed Pearl outside of his home. You can see the suspects pass Pearl and drive down the street. They turn around and then hop out of the car. Police say they tried to rob Pearl. Pearl's family says he was hit in the head with a gun. A single gunshot went off during the struggle, missing Pearl but catching the attention of neighbors. The suspects quickly drive off in this silver SUV. Police show up minutes later.
This neighborhood is a great neighborhood filled with great people. Bad people come in here and they case the place out and they look for targets. Easy targets. And at 6 in the morning on a Saturday, there's not too many people out. And if you're the only one out, and that's what they're looking for, and there's too much of that going on.
Pearl died at the hospital Monday morning from his head injury. His fellow parishioners at Christ Church Memphis, where he was the director of facilities for 27 years, in mourning. Senior pastor Paul Lawler told Action News 5, Pearl was selfless, always going the extra mile, and an extraordinary human being. Pearl's family shared these pictures with us and described him as an adventurer who was loved by everyone and would give the shirt off his back to anyone. He leaves behind a wife, 3 children, 9 grandchildren, and 5 great-grandchildren.
And our prayers go out to the Pearl family, the extended Pearl family this morning. Moving on, the 2023 Beale Street Music Festival got some positive feedback for its return finally downtown to Tom Lee Park. It's from the organization that runs the park. Thousands of music lovers returned there, first time since 2019. There were questions about the park and the general crime concerns. Memphis police say there was no violent crimes reported downtown over the weekend, but 12 cars were broken into, 21 cars were stolen, and there was also 1 report of damage to the actual park.
One of the things we've always anticipated is that we will come back in after the month of May, fix all of the damages that have been caused, complete the construction that remains to be completed in advance of the public opening in September.
And that is George Abbott. Apparently that damage was to a water main from one of the vendors. The Memphis River Parks Partnership, now the organization is looking forward towards the World Championship Barbecue Cooking Contest, which runs from May 17th through the 20th at Tom Lee Park. We are always talking about cybercrime, ways to protect yourself, identity theft, scammers that are out there. It's certainly something that you have to be cognizant of, vigilant of, no question about it. It's constantly changing, and the scammers out there are always trying to find new ways to either get your personal information or get your money. Let's bring in an expert here from Cisco Security. We got Dave Lewis on the digital desk, global advisory to Cisco Security. Dave, let's talk about the issue of cybercrime and what do people need to know about the current threats that are out there. Good morning.
Good morning, and thank you very much for having me. So some of the current threats that we're seeing out of our Talos intelligence group at Cisco are that in the last quarter, attackers have been going after healthcare organizations, hospitals, and things to that effect, trying to gain access to those environments, as well the typical pieces that we see that continue on as well are ransomware as in phishing attacks in addition to that.
Okay, so what about the most persistent cyber threats? You mentioned a lot of companies there. What about for individuals?
So for the individual, the piece that you have to be aware of are the phishing email attacks. These are emails that'll show up, usually promising something that is a lure that most people would click on thinking, oh, okay, I want that. So it's like a $200 gift card for some particular retailer. In actuality, that is a lure to get somebody to click a link that will, unbeknownst to them, install malicious software on their system or give the attacker remote access to the system or steal passwords. So, the user has to be vigilant about those. In the past, those emails were very easy to spot because they were poorly written and horribly crafted. But now the attackers have really upped their game. So you have to exercise a level of due diligence and say, is this really something that I'm expecting? Is this too good to be true? So if you apply that sort of rationale, you'll probably put yourself in a much better position.
We're hearing all the time about AI, artificial intelligence, and the negative consequences of it. And artificial intelligence is in almost everything these days. How is artificial intelligence trying to breach our identity theft and is a part of cybercrime?
I would say we're a little ahead of our skis on that particular aspect. I think that, yes, in the future, that will be a real and present danger. But currently, now it is very limited in scope, especially when we look at stuff like ChatGPT, which is not AI, it's machine learning. These are different pieces that, yes, have tangible benefits if they're used in the right way. And ultimately, the attackers will make use of them in the future. But it's a little bit premature for us to go down that road just yet. But keeping in mind that that will eventually be an issue.
Oh, yeah, I bet. No question about it. I mean, I'm sure you're like me. I mean, you hear all the time about artificial intelligence, AI, and some of the negative concerns that people have when it comes to AI. I understand that there is a Cisco Cybersecurity Readiness Index. Tell me what that is.
Well, this is an excellent report where we polled security professionals from around the planet and got their perspective on how they saw their own security practice and where they saw themselves from a maturity aspect as it pertained to their practice. And the really telling piece of this was that 15% of organizations saw themselves as being in a mature state. And what that means is if there's a cyber incident or a cybersecurity attack, that they feel that they would be able to resiliently get through it and be okay on the other side of it. Most of the other organizations fall in the middle of the pack where they're working very hard to get up to speed, and they are going to definitely need help to get there. So they're definitely getting to a better place overall.
So, Dave, we have thousands of people watching us each and every morning here on the Digital Desk. If you were to give maybe 3 bullet points right there, some tips and ways people can protect themselves, where would you start?
Well, first off, arm yourself with information. And what I mean by that is look at your credit card statements, your bank statements, look for anomalous behavior. Because if an attacker is able to breach a website and steal credit cards, they're going to test them to see if they're valid. There'll be a $1 or a $2 transaction from a vendor you've never heard of, which, most credit card companies are very good about finding these things, but sometimes they do get through. So you want to look for this anomalous behavior. As well, you want to make sure that your laptops, your desktops, your mobile devices are all patched to current. The security patches are coming out for a reason, so you need to apply them. And the last piece of that would be moving away from passwords, because it has limited utility. It's a control, but not a security control. So if you lock your house in the morning, go to work, and you lose your key, and somebody finds it and they know it's your key, they can gain access to your house, and the house doesn't know any better. If you're using multi-factor authentication, the attacker finds the key, they try to get in, the house knows enough to say, you're not supposed to be there, I'm not letting you in. So when you frame it like that, it's about reducing risk and fundamentally making it that much more difficult for the attackers and criminals to gain access to your information. You don't want to make it any easier for them than it already is.
We've said a lot during this interview, Dave. Where can people go to get some of these tips and various information?
Well, you can check us out at cisco.com/go/readiness-index. So our report is there, as well as lots of other information that you could drill down on and learn more about. As well, you can also reach out to us because we're there to be your trusted partner at Cisco.
All right, Dave Lewis, Global Advisory, Cisco Security. We appreciate you and appreciate this conversation, man. Thanks. All right, college AP exams start May 1st. Do you remember taking those AP exams? They really do matter. A lot of people say, they don't matter. No, they do. And it's a big deal, and it's something that we should talk about with our friend David Blowbaum joining us on the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Now, we knew David way back when, but he has gone national now. He's a recognized expert in the entrance exam, college admission industry. He's the Director of Outreach for the National Test Prep Association. David, welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. How are you?
Thanks. Doing great. It's great to be here. And actually, Angela's segment also applies to high school students, so they definitely need to check their social media as well.
Oh, yeah, Angela's fantastic, and I agree with you. Yeah, you can apply that in so many different ways. But, the AP exams, they start May 1st. So I've had kids that are dealing with that, and they've dealt with that in the past. What do you tell people? Because a lot of people go, well, they don't matter, but they really do, don't they?
Yes, so they matter in some ways that students don't think about because they're in high school and it matters for college. So there's 3 main ways that AP exams help students. So if you can get AP credit in college, then you can take fewer courses in college and have an easier time, or you can potentially graduate early and save money, or you can get rid of those core requirements early and then take more advanced classes in your interests. The less important usage of them is for admissions and actually getting accepted to the schools. It's really only the top schools that look at AP exam scores like that, but that's a consideration as well. And students just need to keep in mind, they're like any other tests. Preparation is key, but they can succeed.
That is a great breakdown of why it's so important. I mean, various reasons here. Fewer courses, get to graduate early, maybe an opportunity to take some other advanced courses. No, that's great. That's great. What do parents need to know when it comes to studying for these exams? I know that the studying can be overwhelming at times for some students.
Yeah, so the best way to do that prep is hopefully they're doing it in school, but students should be taking released AP exams and seeing how they're doing on those released exams. And then, if it's AP chemistry, seeing what topics did they miss, and then just making sure that they go to their teacher at school, or they learn those topics on their own, or they enlist the help of a good tutor who will actually help them learn those topics.
Fantastic. I always enjoyed our conversations early on, David, when we talked about the SAT and the ACT, because there's so much emphasis on that, although there have been some colleges that have kind of excluded that in their admissions process, or so they say. I've asked this question before, but I think it's an important question to ask again. When it comes to your students who are getting ready for college admissions, should they take the SAT or the ACT? Which one should they take, and why should they take it?
Yeah, so there has been a lot of confusion about it. And there are some schools that are test blind, meaning they won't even look at your SAT, ACT results, even if you send them. But that's only 6% of schools in the country. 88% of schools in the country are what's called test optional, which means they're inviting you to send your SAT and ACT scores because they still care about SAT and ACT scores. And so good scores will always help a student's chances of admission, more merit aid, and scholarships. So the tests really are still advantageous, and students should take a practice exam or potentially the real exam of either, because you can pick and choose which test dates you want to send into colleges. So there's no downside to taking the real test. But once you figure out which test is the best for you, you can just keep taking that until you hit your score goal. You want to finish by November 1st of your senior year, because that's when early application deadlines for early decision and early action deadlines are for most colleges. So for the SAT, students can still take the May, June, August, and October SATs. For the ACT, they can still take the June, July, September, and October tests. So plenty of opportunities.
Should students go into it with a goal? I know with my kids, and they're past this process now. We had a goal that 30 on the ACT. That was our goal. If you can get 30 or above, we will reward you with a financial stipend. But is that a good idea? I mean, I guess you really got to know your child and what motivates them to do well, right?
So that's a fantastic idea. And there's two ways to break that down. You can look up the schools that you're applying to, and a lot of them will just have a chart of, if you get this score and have this GPA, which the GPA limits are much easier to hit. So basically, if you hit this SAT or ACT score, we're going to give you this much money per year, maybe $10,000, $15,000. So definitely look up on the school's websites, can I get money for a certain score? So that's for getting money. Then there's the admissions piece. And as far as setting a score goal for an admissions piece, I would look up all those schools again and look up their median SAT and ACT score. You want your SAT and ACT score to hit that or be above that for your scores to actually help you in admissions.
Let me ask you this. One of the last conversations we had, David, was about ChatGPT. And it's so interesting because right after we had that conversation, I saw it everywhere. Like everyone was talking about ChatGPT. So I like to say we're on the cutting edge here on the digital desk with you. How has that changed the test, if it has at all?
So speaking of the cutting edge, the last time we talked about it, it was version 3. Now, version 4 just came out a few weeks ago. It's changed everything again. And I should preface this with, I'm not encouraging students to do this because they shouldn't be doing this. But what students are doing now that version 4 is out is version 4 can almost perfectly copy the writing style of any writing that you put into it. So what students are doing is they're taking the essays of students who have been admitted to top colleges, they're inputting those essays and then saying, write my application essay in that style. And Johns Hopkins, for instance, on their website, which they should really remove, there's over 40 essays that worked. And so students can literally just put, I tried it out, and they can just put that into ChatGPT, say, write this essay for me, and in under a minute, they will get a top 1% essay. So if colleges don't adapt, they're really in trouble. They really need to do either proctored essays or interviews or do something to guarantee authentic content from their applicants.
That really sounds very scary and a big issue they need to address ASAP. You know, I would think, David, that they would kind of highlight it when it comes to, you know, the ACT or the SAT. Got to do the essay, of course, in person. But wow, for an application, I don't know how you make sure it's authentic.
I completely agree. And the SAT, unfortunately, actually discontinued its essay, and the ACT still has its essay, but no one needs to take it because colleges don't even look at it. So I really think that they need to rethink that, because right now they don't have any verified content from applicants. And to be honest, this was already a problem. I mean, you can Google, write my application essays for me, and there's a million firms that are out there to write your essays for you. Again, students should not do that, but it was always provided basically to the wealthy. The irony is ChatGPT has now allowed everyone to cheat. It's democratized cheating, which is wrong, but hopefully it will be enough to push colleges to actually fix the problem that already existed and is just much larger now.
Wow, interesting stuff. Very cutting edge as always, David. Thank you for that. What else can we talk about with regards to AP exams, SAT, ACT, that whole process that we haven't talked about already?
And one thing to put on people's radar is that next year, the SAT is changing from its current format from a 3-hour paper exam into a 2-hour digital exam that's going to be adaptive. So it's actually a good change, but for any families who have a sophomore right now, they need to be aware that in the middle of their child's junior year, that SAT is going to completely change. So the current SAT is only going to be offered until December 2023. The next SAT that's offered is in March of 2024. Very different test. So students should not start prepping for the current SAT unless they know that they'll be done by December if they're going to be a junior next year, or they should take the ACT. So something to consider.
Dumb question. How does the 2-hour digital exam differ from what the exam is now?
It's a great question. So the math and grammar are basically the same, but it's the reading that's going to change. And instead of being, a long reading passage and then maybe 10 questions on that reading passage, students will only get one short passage and then one question on that short passage. So no more long passages. There's also just more reasoning questions and some actually cool questions. I actually think that they did a good job on the remake, but this first year of students will unfortunately be guinea pigs for the new test.
Yeah, that's wild. I always enjoy talking with you because you know what's coming and you know like where we are in terms of testing and maybe how to get an edge and what students and parents need to know about. Anything else you want to mention before we let you go, David? This has been great, very helpful.
Thank you. Just if families would like a vetted list of the best tutors, they can head to nationaltestprep.org, and we would be happy to help you find the best tutors in your area.
Awesome. David Blobom, we really appreciate your expertise and your thoughts and all that valuable information you're sharing with so many people here in Memphis and across the Mid-South. Thanks very much.
My pleasure.
New developments in the lawsuit over a 5-year residency requirement for candidates for Memphis mayor. The Memphis City Council has now filed a cross-complaint to challenge the city of Memphis on this requirement. Victoria Poirier has details.
Months ahead of the Memphis mayoral race, the Memphis City Council has joined the fight over the 5-year residency requirement for mayoral candidates.
So we wanted to make sure if the administration came up with a position that was counter to ours, we would have a seat at the table.
The City Council filed a cross-complaint that cites a 1996 ordinance that ended the residency requirement. That ordinance contradicts the position held by Jennifer Sink, Memphis's chief legal officer.
The complaint was to make sure that the council's voice was going to be heard with this.
The defendants in the cross-complaint are Memphis Mayor Jim Strickland and the Shelby County Election Commission. But as of Monday, candidates Sheriff Floyd Bonner and NAACP President Van Turner have dismissed the Election Commission from the suit. City Council Chairman Martavius Jones says the 96 referendum should be followed, but says future changes could be on the ballot soon.
What we have to accept is already what is on the books right now. And that was on the books set by a Memphis City Council.
The City Council plans to make it clear that anyone who runs for public office in Memphis in the future must live in the city for 2 years.
But what we're trying to do with going forward is try to bring some resolution to it. It's in the court of law right now. I think that's where it belongs because there's some vagueness as to how it exists on the books right now.
In Memphis, Victoria Poirier, Action News 5.
Okay, so the judge in this case is expected to hold a hearing on May 18th that should resolve this matter. We always love to hear about young entrepreneurs, what they're doing, what they think is great for professional success. Well, there is an event I want to tell you about on May 21st that has young entrepreneurs and their young ideas that's going to be on display. Joined right now on the Action News 5 digital desk by Larissa Gregory. She is Executive Director of Light Memphis. Larissa, good morning to you. I appreciate you being here. First off, for those who are not familiar, tell us what Light Memphis is.
Yeah, good morning, Andrew. Thank you for having me. Light Memphis has been around in Memphis for about 10 years. We're celebrating our 10-year anniversary right now. And we exist to provide Black and Brown students entrepreneurship education to open up skills for them to be successful in their future, for them to launch or scale an existing business, and for them to find fulfilling, full-time, livable wage work. And so we are thrilled to be able to offer our students an opportunity to share what they've done over the last 16 weeks with the community at our event on May 21st at the Renaissance Convention Center.
We're showing pictures from last year's event here, Larissa. So tell me about this event. You mentioned it. It's May 21st, and you have 30 young entrepreneurs from 9th through 12th grade, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have kids from all over the city that have been working over the last 16 weeks to build or scale and launch a business. And so on May 21st at the Renaissance Convention Center, starting at 5 o'clock is when the doors open. The community is welcome to come and to see what these young people have been working on. We're thrilled to present their businesses. They'll have their logos. They'll have product for sale. They'll have a table set up, and any revenue that they generate on that night goes straight back to them and into their business. So we're really excited. And then we'll vote at the very end for the top 3 youth entrepreneurs, and those 3 youth entrepreneurs will receive additional seed funding towards their business. So in the program, they receive up to $1,200 to start their business. And that night on May 21st at the Renaissance Convention Center, they'll earn up to an additional $1,500, $1,000, or $750 to go towards their business in first, second, and third place. Oh, I think I lost your audio, Andrew.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now?
Oh, there you are. Now I can hear you.
Yeah, so I was just curious because there's 30 of them there in this entrepreneurial event there on May 21st. Did they have to have certain requirements? Was there a contest to get these final 30 there?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we recruit new students every semester. We go into schools, we go into community centers, we go and find where there's potential talent, and there's potential talent all over our city. So students go through a process of putting in an interest form, and then they go through a community workshop. And once they complete those two things, they're in the program. And it's a commitment of those 16 weeks. So the 30 students that you're going to meet on May 21st are the 30 students that have been able to persist through all 16 weeks of the program.
It sounds amazing. Tell me how the public can get involved, Larissa.
Yeah, there's a couple of ways that you can get involved. First of all, you can give of your time. We're always looking for volunteers. Always looking for volunteers. And for more information on volunteering, you can go to Lite Memphis, L-I-T-E, Memphis.org. We're also always looking for donors and partners. So whether you're an individual donor or you're a corporate organization that's looking to sow into something that's doing great things here in our city, litememphis.org is the place to come. And if you're interested in attending on Sunday, May 21st, it's a free event, and you are more than welcome to join us. There's a QR code on the invitation, I think that you just shared a second ago, Andrew. But that QR code, you can scan that and you can join us on Sunday, May 21st at 5 p.m. And we look forward to having anyone and everyone come join us.
Okay, we got it up there. There is the pitch night scheduled for May 21st from 5 until 7 o'clock, the Renaissance Convention Center there in downtown Memphis. Just curious, Larissa, has there ever been someone to come out of this? I know you guys have only been around 10 years. Has there been someone that's come out of this event and really done well for themselves professionally that maybe we might know just offhand?
Not offhand that would be familiar to you in this moment, but we have had several successful students that have come through the program. You know, over the course of 10 years, we've been able to see upwards of 500 students matriculate through our program. Many of those students have gone on to complete post-secondary options and have had access to opportunities. One that comes to mind is an alumni that came through and now runs her own marketing firm, which is something that she had an idea about when she was in our program, but she was able to go through the program. We were able to support her through her matriculation, through her higher ed education, and now she's running and owns her own marketing firm. So we're very proud of her amongst a lot of our other alumni as well.
Okay, there it is one more time. Pitch night coming up Sunday, May 21st from 5 until 7 o'clock downtown at the Renaissance Convention Center. Larissa Gregory, we really appreciate you and everything that you do as the executive director of Lite Memphis. Congratulations on the group's success and good luck on the 21st. We appreciate you joining us.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Take care. Thank you for having me.
Okay, appreciate you. Thank you. All right, now another live look from our High Five camera. Downtown Memphis. Man, was it loud last night. Did you get maybe woken up out of your sleep with all the storms? Jeez, they were loud. Well, fortunately, they are way out of here, and we got nothing but blue skies right now as we come to you. 8:35, 74 degrees. We got more storms in the forecast, perhaps. They're mainly isolated. Meteorologist Spencer Denton has details.
We had some overnight storms that packed a punch, even a few severe thunderstorm warnings overnight, especially north of Memphis, but most of those storms ended quickly, and now we have a lingering front across the Mid-South. That's going to be the focus for more isolated to scattered showers and thunderstorms as we go through the next few days. Now, it may not be a washout in all areas, and some of you may not see as much as others, but definitely going to be in a warm, somewhat muggy pattern across much of the region. Let's show you what this lingering front will do. It kind of hangs out just to the south of Memphis and eventually will move back north of the area. And as it does, again, there could be showers or thunderstorms on either side of it, but there will be several dry periods as well all the way through the weekend. So let's talk about the short-term. Futurecast shows dry conditions this morning as we go through the afternoon. There could be a pop-up shower or thunderstorm, especially in areas where those storms earlier this morning died out. So even here in Memphis and Shelby County, parts of northeast Mississippi, maybe northeast Arkansas as well. Looks dry tomorrow, temperatures around 70 or so. And then the coverage of showers and storms tomorrow afternoon, a little bit higher, I think, as we go to the afternoon and evening hours. So we'll have to watch for some heavy rain, some gusty wind, nothing severe really with any of this, but certainly there could be some stronger storms that have even some intense lightning as well. You can go back 12 hours and look at this big cluster that came out of Missouri overnight, and it just raced across the Mid-South from the north. The models picked up pretty well on this yesterday and the potential for it, and so they moved through and then just kind of fell apart as they entered into northeast Mississippi. 86 for a high today, clouds, some sunshine, and an isolated downpour. Can't be ruled out in the afternoon. Maybe a storm or two, but I think it's just some isolated spots with heavy rain. Here's a look at high temperatures today. 87 in Covington and Ripley, 86 in Somerville, West Tennessee, warming up. We hit 87 yesterday in Memphis, very close to the same thing today. Maybe as high as 88 or 89 in Tunica and Marks, back toward Corinth around 86. And it looks like upper 80s across much of eastern Arkansas. As we check out the first alert, 7-day forecast, those temperatures will be in the mid 80s, maybe some low 80s. And again, coverage may be a little higher in some spots tomorrow or Thursday. But as we head toward the weekend, just some spotty showers here and there, temperatures hanging in the mid to upper 80s.
Okay, here we are. 860 graduates will walk the stage at the University of Tennessee Health Science Center's spring commencement later this month. Keynote speakers include Memphis City Councilman Dr. Jeff Warren, St. Jude Chief Pharmaceutical Officer William L. Green, and former Tennessee Health Department Commissioner Lisa Piercy. Despite battling obstacles, including housing and quality bereavement, a Hamilton High School graduate is at the top of her class. That's Rachel Bonner. She's valedictorian for Hamilton's 2023 class. She recently secured the highly selective Gates Scholarship, only awarded to 750 national applicants out of 51,000 submissions. She says her path hasn't always been easy, from COVID to virtual classes, family loss. She's pushed through and credits most of her motivation to her younger sister, who has autism. Now Bonner's headed to the University of Memphis to major in theater.
I'm as smart as I am because I want to be, not because anyone was like, oh, you got to do this, you got to be the smartest. I just wanted to be, and that environment I come from is not the best, and people often are like, you deserve more, you deserve better, but I deal with what I got and I rise above.
Bonner says she received more than 22 scholarships from schools all across the country, but decided to choose a college at home to make a difference in the Memphis community. All right, this year, almost 2 million young men and women will graduate from college. Another million will earn associate's degree. And with that degree in hand, grads will set out to make their mark on the world. But there is some advice because of that college transition from the college classroom to the real world. That can be a little tricky for some. It was the subject of our Best Life report. So here's some advice on how to adjust life after college. Making the jump from the college classroom to the real world isn't always easy. Pressures to get a new job, pay off debts, and find a place to live can take their toll. But there are some strategies that can make your transition a little smoother. First, adjust your expectations. Research shows it takes an average of 3 to 6 months for college students to find a job after graduation. And one survey found 73% of graduates took a job that didn't fit their career goals. Use your first job as a chance to build experience, network, and learn new skills.
The case we were talking about.
Finding a mentor can also ease the transition from college to the corporate world. Mentors can help you navigate your field and develop skills. You might also want to consider asking a professor, a former boss, or even a family friend to be your mentor. Also, create a budget Start by gathering all of your monthly expenses and determine which are fixed, like rent, and which are variable, like groceries. Categorize each expense. If you're spending more than you earn, look for ways to adjust. Want to tell you about this. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. Planet Fitness wants teens to make physical and mental health a priority once school is out, so they're offering free memberships to teenagers 14 to 19 this summer. It's the third year of Planet Fitness High School Summer Pass program, including workouts tailored to teens and personal training. Teens can sign up now with a parent or guardian. It runs through August 31st. Tennessee, Arkansas, Mississippi, we know it as the Mid-South. Well, guess what? We are also in the stroke belt, meaning there's a much larger incident of stroke in our region. We have Dr. Anna Yang joining us from Regional One Health. She's talking to us about this issue and why so many people in our area experience a stroke. First off, Dr. Yang, it's glad to have you back on the digital desk. Let's talk about why we are in the stroke belt. What are some of the factors that put us in there?
Yeah, so the stroke belt is this belt in the southeastern portion of the United States, starting with Tennessee, Mississippi, and Arkansas, and then going towards the east. And this area has long been known to just have a higher incidence of strokes compared to the rest of the United States. So to be in the stroke belt, it's about at least 10% greater strokes than the rest of the country. There are a lot of factors that could be contributing to this. There have been a lot of different factors that have been looked into, but obviously what I want to focus on is the ones that we can do something about. So that would include, things like your diet, your risk factors for, high blood pressure, diabetes, cholesterol, drug use, smoking. And then as far as risk factors, we don't have anything that we can't control. Race, unfortunately, is a factor as well, and African Americans are a lot more likely to have strokes than the rest of the population, which we do have a large population of here.
We always run these PSAs, Dr. Yang, about what to do in case of a stroke. I think the acronym is FACE. Is that what it is? Tell me what the warning signs are.
Yeah, so FACE or FAST. FAST is the most recent one that was out. Yeah, so FAST, so F for face, so you got the first one right. So the facial droop. A for arms, so if one arm is drooping, is weaker than the other side. And then S for speech, so slurred speech. And then T for time, so the faster, to remind you that the faster you see these symptoms, you need to call right away to go to the emergency room.
Okay, and can you talk about what happens in those in the cases of a stroke? I know it's there's a distinction between mini strokes and larger, more dangerous strokes, right?
Sure, yes. So broadly, there are actually two types of strokes. You've got your bleeding type stroke, which accounts for some of it, but the majority of strokes are going to be your blockage type strokes. So in either way, you don't have enough blood flow going to the brain. So what we call mini strokes are basically strokes in a smaller vessel that go away. So you have symptoms and your symptoms resolve, and then when you get your MRI, you don't actually really see anything obvious. And then your big strokes obviously are the ones with significant neurologic deficits, where you don't just have a little bit of weakness or a little bit of numbness, that you may even have permanent disability from it. And these are strokes that you can see when you get the MRI. You can see exactly where in the brain has been affected. But even mini strokes, if you have a mini stroke, it's not something to be taken lightly, because these are risks for having a large stroke within a couple of days to a month even. So even little strokes need to be taken care of and taken seriously.
Yeah, no question. I know that. I've had some family members that have had some of those mini strokes, and it is nothing to mess with. Let's talk about some of these different factors that people cannot control. You said age, race, those are some factors. Tell me about that.
Well, so traditionally we always thought stroke was, a disease of the older people. And in some ways, the older you get, the higher your risk. But at the same time, we're seeing it in a lot of young people too. Just not too long ago, I saw somebody in their 30s who's, thought they were previously healthy have a stroke. So it's not impossible to have a stroke just because you're a young person. We're seeing it more and more often in people in their 40s and 50s. So definitely age is a risk factor, but that's not the only thing we should go by. And yes, race. So African Americans, like I said, have a much higher risk and rate of strokes than a lot of others.
Okay, so if we have thousands of people watching us on the digital desk, Dr. Yang, if there are maybe 3 or 4 bullet points that you could give people to say, okay, you don't want to have a stroke and ways to prevent ever having one, what would you say?
So the first thing I would say is go to your doctor, first of all, to get the things that you can control under control. So just because you don't know that you have high blood pressure or diabetes or high cholesterol doesn't mean you don't, because you've never seen a doctor. So please go get that checked. And if you do have these are things that can be managed. And so the more you can lower your risk, the more you can prevent strokes. Majority of strokes are preventable, which is good news, but you have to know about these problems in order to do something about them to prevent them. So quitting smoking is another huge one. If you can quit smoking, ask your friends and family for help, or your doctor if you need medication to help. Smoking is a huge risk for stroke. And then, also watching your diet and, exercise, the normal things to stay healthy. Making sure, what you're putting into your mouth is what's best for your brain health and your heart health and your blood vessel health. And then, of course, avoiding drug use is another one. There are a lot of different drugs out there that can worsen your risk for stroke. So I would say definitely, A is to go to the doctor and work on these risk factors and do all the things that you can do to prevent the stroke. And then the other thing is, if you have one, please go to the ER immediately. There are medications, there are things that we can do, and the faster we do them, the better for your brain long term, the more likely that you can get some of your functioning back. Because, once the damage is done to your brain, the only thing left we can do is to try to prevent further damage and try to encourage your brain to, recover as much as possible.
You've said a lot during this interview, Dr. Yang. Where can we get this information? Is there someplace online where we can go?
So the CDC has, some information on strokes, some basic information, some statistics, especially about, this area, the stroke belt, and, in general. But I mean, your greatest resource is going to be to see your doctor and talk to them specifically about, your personal risk factors and your personal medical history.
Okay, I appreciate that. And then remember FAST, face, arms, speech, and time. Such a good acronym to remember. Dr. Yang, we appreciate your time, and thanks very much. Very informative. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
For decades, fluoride has been added to most of our tap water to help protect against cavities. But now studies are addressing how much is too much when it comes to fluoride and whether it can cause problems, especially in infants and expected mothers. Let's talk about this issue and more with a biological dentist, Dr. Griffith Cole. He joins us on the Action News 5 digital desk. Good morning, Dr. Cole. Let's first talk about what a biological dentist is. I've never heard of that.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Yeah, so we're more like whole body dentists. We work like a functional medicine doctor in that we look at more than just fixing what's going on in the mouth. We want to know the underlying causes of the symptoms. Why are they getting cavities? Why do they have infection? So we dig a little deeper and we treat the whole person, really. We're also very concerned with materials, and so we don't work with anything that we know is toxic to the body, like mercury, nickel, and even fluoride.
That's excellent. All right, so that's perfect to set the table here for this discussion. I'm really looking forward to this discussion because I've had so many debates with various family members and some friends who hate fluoride, who hate the idea of fluoride in tap water. I mean, it was put in tap water back in the 40s to address the issue of cavities. There's been a lot of studies out there that have talked about the toxicity to people's bodies with fluoride. And now there's what I'm reading is that there may be a link when it comes to IQs and infants and children. Bring us up to speed.
I will. So you're absolutely right. Too much fluoride can negatively affect most of our organs in our body. And now we know brain function and activity. And how we know that is the National Toxicology Program, which works under Health and Human Services. Their job is to look at substances that are harmful to the environment and let us know. And they looked at these reports and found absolute brain impairments, including lower IQ, as you mentioned, in babies born to pregnant moms who ingested fluoridated water during pregnancy.
Now, I've always heard, Dr. Cole, that the amount of fluoride that's in tap water is so small and so minute that it wouldn't really affect people's bodies. Is that I mean, I guess that's one argument, but, you know, my thought is, well, if it's any kind of poison, why put it in at all? I mean, do the negatives outweigh the positives? Where currently is this issue? Because I've seen some communities across the country removing it from their tap water because there's been such a backlash.
Yeah, so your statements are absolutely accurate in that there are many people who are now realizing that not only is it not effective, it's not doing its intended function, but it's actually very harmful. And keep in mind, too, that fluoride, when you get fluoride in your body, when you drink it, your body can only metabolize and get rid of about half of that. So the other half stays in your body indefinitely. So this is an accumulative effect, right? And that's the problem with it. Drinking it is not what we need to do. So, and now we know that we are getting too much. And in fact, Health and Human Services has lowered the level that's allowed to be added to water supplies because they're noticing children are getting these spots on their teeth, this tooth fluorosis, these white spots. Every 2 out of 5 kids has that now in this country. And we get it in these other things too, right? Like bottled drinks. We get it in some dietary supplements, mouth rinses, toothpaste, and even a lot of prescription medications. So there's just so much of it. Even if you try to avoid it, and you're hopefully in some community where you don't have your water fluoridated, you're still being exposed to it. So you got to be careful of that.
So let's talk about some alternatives out there. I know that there are a lot of alternatives that I see at health food stores, for example. They big labels on the toothpaste that says no fluoride toothpaste or fluoride free, that sort of thing. Is that what we should be looking for? Give me some alternatives.
Yeah, I feel that way, and I'll just speak for myself. I mean, I don't think that we need fluoride in any form, but there'll be plenty of dentists out there that will tell you it works topically, and they're right. You can apply it to your teeth topically and get some kind of anti-decay effect. It's unnecessary, but it does have that effect. So you know, I always tell people the same thing, and it's just simple principles that we learned a long time ago. A good, sound diet, right? One that is low in sugar, but high in vegetables, especially green leafy vegetables, good fats, ample protein, right? Combine that with good home care. And I mean simple things, right? If we brush and floss daily and spend a couple minutes brushing your teeth, clean your tongue, that combined with a good diet, and you've got a home run there. You don't need to add any kind of special dentifrice to your teeth to make them stronger. You already have the foundation.
Would you recommend that all communities across the country remove fluoride from their tap water?
I absolutely would, and have for 28 years now. It's unnecessary. It's never been proven to actually work, as I mentioned. And now we know that all these brain impairments, I mean, lower IQs, get this, they found when the National Toxicology Program looked at all these studies, and they handpicked what they thought were well done, controlled, randomized studies, they found that there was a steep drop in IQ, up to 7 points in babies that were born to these moms who drank fluoridated water during pregnancy.
That is crazy to me. It's amazing to me that it's still allowed in some of the community tap water across the country. What about when it comes to toothpaste? You know, naturally, you think of toothpaste, you think of, you know, putting it on your teeth, rinsing it, cleaning it, and then spitting it out. Would there be any harmful effects from that?
So, every toothpaste that has fluoride now has that little warning label. And they've had it for years where it says, don't swallow more than a pea-size amount. And the reason why is it's toxic. And if a child especially swallowed a fair amount of toothpaste, it could do some harm. So I always say you don't need to have any kind of fluoride toothpaste. There's so many toothpastes out there that don't have them, as you mentioned, but you can even brush your teeth with just baking soda. Baking soda and water is a really nice soft dentifrice that'll get the plaque off your teeth, and that's really all you need. So you can save some money there.
Tell me why this hasn't gotten as much coverage. I feel like you know it, I know it, but I don't feel like this is one of those huge pressing issues that many of Americans know about.
I think it's because it's been something that's been hammered into us our whole lives, right? Since 1945 anyway. And dentists especially. I love to get into debates with these pro-fluoridationists, and I know I can win because I have all the science. But I think that when you're told that something is good for you and you're told that again and again, you just take things at face value without really looking at the science behind it. But if everybody just takes a moment and really digest what this report is about. I mean, now we're talking about babies being born with brain impairments. I think that should wake some people up. And don't let any pro-fluoridationist say to you, oh, these studies aren't any good. These are incredible studies. That's why the NTP actually handpicked, because there's over 80 studies, but they got down to 52 that they felt did the right, really good scientific method. They were, great methodologies. They were very well done. And that says a lot about these results.
Let's talk about where people can see these studies and these various scientific data points for themselves. Can they go anywhere online?
Yes, thank you for asking. So if they go to the IAOMT.org, so it's the International Academy of Oral Medicine and Toxicology. The website is IAOMT.org. They can find a biologic dentist. They can find, as you mentioned, these studies. We have a library, a loaded digital library with so much information on all topics related to oral medicine. It's a great resource.
Okay, Dr. Griffith Cole, we really appreciate this conversation this morning. Thank you for joining us and illuminating us to the issues with fluoride, not only in our water, but in so many different facets of our everyday life. Thank you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to be here.
We had some overnight storms that packed a punch, even a few severe thunderstorm warnings overnight, especially north of Memphis, but most of those storms ended quickly, and now we have a lingering front across the Mid-South. That's going to be the focus for more isolated to scattered showers and thunderstorms as we go through the next few days. Now, it may not be a washout in all areas, and some of you may not see as much as others, but definitely going to be in a warm, somewhat muggy pattern across much of the region. Let's show you what this lingering front will do. It kind of hangs out just to the south of Memphis and eventually will move back north of the area. And as it does, again, there could be showers or thunderstorms on either side of it, but there will be several dry periods as well all the way through the weekend. So let's talk about the short-term. Futurecast shows dry conditions this morning as we go through the afternoon. There could be a pop-up shower or thunderstorm, especially in areas where those storms earlier this morning died out. So even here in Memphis and Shelby County, parts of northeast Mississippi, maybe northeast Arkansas as well. Looks dry tomorrow, temperatures around 70 or so. And then the coverage of showers and storms tomorrow afternoon, a little bit higher, I think, as we go into the afternoon and evening hours. So we'll have to watch for some heavy rain, some gusty wind, nothing severe really with any of this, but certainly there could be some stronger storms that have even some intense lightning as well. You can go back 12 hours and look at this big cluster that came out of Missouri overnight, and it just raced across the Mid-South from the north. The models picked up pretty well on this yesterday and the potential for it, and so they moved through and then just kind of fell apart as they entered into northeast Mississippi. 86 for a high today, clouds, some sunshine. and an isolated downpour. Can't be ruled out in the afternoon. Maybe a storm or two, but I think it's just some isolated spots with heavy rain. Here's a look at high temperatures today. 87 in Covington and Ripley, 86 in Somerville, West Tennessee, warming up. We hit 87 yesterday in Memphis, very close to the same thing today, maybe as high as 88 or 89 in Tunica and Marks, back toward Corinth around 86, and it looks like upper 80s across much of eastern Arkansas. As we check out the first alert 7-day forecast, those temperatures will be in the mid 80s, maybe some low 80s, and again, coverage may be a little higher in some spots tomorrow or Thursday, but as we head toward the weekend, just some spotty showers here and there, temperatures hanging in the mid to upper 80s.
Okay, frequent flyers. New nonstop service launched out of Memphis. First Delta flight between Memphis and Boston departed yesterday. Delta utilizing a 76-seat aircraft for the route. It'll operate daily. Boston flight brings Delta's number of destinations in Memphis to 7. That's Atlanta, Detroit, LA, Minneapolis, New York, and Salt Lake City. All right, so that's good news to talk about there. Something that's related, a national lawmaker trying to make a costly path to becoming a commercial airline pilot a little more affordable. Our Washington Bureau Chief, Stetson Miller, tells us about the Flight Education Access Act. Watch.
According to the Regional Airline Association, it costs about $80,000 for FAA flight training to become a pilot. But currently, federal loan limits don't accommodate that cost. Senator Tammy Baldwin is now pushing to try to change that.
Airlines are facing a serious pilot shortage in the U.S., with nearly half of all pilots set to retire in the next 15 years, according to the Regional Airline Association. One of the biggest factors contributing to the problem is the cost of education for flying.
We need better career access. Today's federal student aid system fails pilots. Federal loans are short $80,000 or more. Airlines provide subsidized training and other supports, but lower income families can't bridge the gap.
Wisconsin Senator Tammy Baldwin is now introducing a bill to try to address the financial barrier for future pilots. It's called the Flight Education Access Act, and it would increase the maximum limits on federal student loans for students pursuing degrees in flight education and training programs.
We want to level the playing field, especially when there's a pipeline issue right now for pilots getting into the field, and make it an opportunity available to anyone who's interested in, not just those who come from wealthier backgrounds.
It would also create a new scholarship opportunity to offset the cost of pilot school through a public-private partnership that would incentivize private partners to offer scholarships with a 4-to-1 federal match, and it would work to diversify the pilot workforce. Senator Baldwin says the bill could be especially helpful to states like Wisconsin that rely heavily on regional airlines, which are facing the most significant shortages.
We rely a lot on regional airlines to be able to get Wisconsinites to where they need to go, where they need to travel, and it's the regional airlines that are seeing some of the most significant shortages in pilots.
Senator Baldwin says the bill has bipartisan support and is hoping to include the bill in the FAA's Reauthorization Act that Congress is now working on. In Washington, I'm Stetson Miller.
Memphis is always a great time of year. I should say Memphis in May, a great time of year to be in the Bluff City. So many things happening. The weather's great. It's fun to be outdoors. Lots of festivals, lots of activities. Someone else who's really busy during May is Talisa Franklin, our friend at WAVN, The Trend. And Talisa, you got a lot to talk about this morning, don't you? Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Yes, I do. Because you know what? It's a lot of great things that's happening right here in the Bluff City, right? A lot of great things. Woo. So let me go ahead and just kick off. Yeah, on tonight, let me tell you, I am so excited when we have elected officials that's really want to hear from the community about the needs of the community. And so on tonight, y'all, there is a town hall meeting and legislative session debriefing. Let me tell you, we have Councilwoman Rhonda Logan, Councilwoman Michael Easter Thomas. We have Commissioner Charlie Caswell. We have School Board Commissioner Stephanie Love and State Representative Antonio Touche Parkinson. They will be at the Breath of Life Christian Church on tonight, 6 to 7:30. Listen, there will be a town hall so that they can hear from you and you can hear from them. And also a debriefing, knowing what's really going on right now, especially when we're talking about these guns. Oh, these guns is crime and safety. I know that is a big concern for everyone. And so if that is a part of your concern, we expect you to pack out the facility on tonight just to hear and even voice your opinion. You may have some ideas they hadn't thought of, right? And so this could be a great opportunity to talk to the people that is literally sitting at the tables, making laws, approving laws, and saying, no, that's not going to work in the Bluff City. So let's make sure we get there, y'all, on tonight from 6 to 7:30. I will be there because I want to even hear what they have to say. And I got a few things I want to say as well. So y'all, come on, y'all. Our voice matters. Don't let nobody tell you your voice does not matter. It does. And then, y'all, there's so many elected officials, I'm telling you this week, I was like, oh my God, y'all are really doing what y'all say, serving the community. So on this Thursday morning, Commissioner Henry Brooks, y'all, she's having an amazing District 7 Pastors Breakfast. So what does that mean, Talisa? Everybody that's a pastor in District 7 in Commissioner Henry Brooks, she wants to treat you to a breakfast. It's a catered meal at the Pursuit of God Church, 3759 North Watkins. Our dear friend and brother, Pastor Ricky Floyd, is the host pastor. Also, we will have in attendance Sheriff Floyd Bunner, and those two will really talk about what we're doing in our in District 7, how District 7 is moving forward. And then I'm telling y'all, pastors, this is a great opportunity for you to tell our commissioner and our sheriff some of the ideas that you have so we can curb some of this crime, y'all. We have the power to take back our communities. And so I'm excited to see our leaders are working together to bring better things to our community. And then that night, it's going to be a power pack night. Councilwoman Michaeline Easter Thomas, y'all. Now she's doing another great thing. She is having a public meeting about a grocery project. We know in her district, there is a food desert. And so she will have a conversation on tonight on how to really discussing a North Memphis grocery project. And I'm really excited about that because I remember as a young girl, my grandmother, we actually it was things there in that community for her to go to the grocery store. So I'm excited to hear what she has to say as well on this Thursday, 6 o'clock, Springdale Baptist Church, 1193 Springdale in North Memphis 38108. Get yourself there so that we can hear what Councilwoman has planned for our district of North Memphis. Y'all know I just love North Memphis. And this week, I'm like, I'm so proud to see how many people have North Memphis on their mind. And then finally, y'all, I am available and excited, thanks to Mayor Lee Harris, to present this CEO Academy Summer Camp. Yes, Chief Executive Officer Summer Camp that I will be doing for ages 11 to 15, because many people know I am a serial entrepreneur, right? And I want to teach young people the art of entrepreneurship. Listen, it's a limited number of students because I don't want to get overwhelmed with students. I want to keep my hands on these young people so I really can teach them some things that taught me. My son, of course, CEO of the youre.popups.com. He started his business at age 13 and he's yet going strong. And I want to teach some of the best practices and some tools to many of our young people that may have a desire to be an entrepreneur and just don't have the means or the know-how. I want to share some knowledge for these 8 weeks of a summer camp. So if you have a youth that would like to be a part of the CEO Summer Camp, limited number, I need you to go to the website, CEOsAcademy.com, and get all the information. And I cannot wait to see your children because I know I'll have a flux of parents and a flux of children. I can only take a few, but I'm telling you, those few will be impacted and we'll have some more stuff coming up down the road. And so listen, Andrew, that's how Power Pack this weekend is all about our community. Love my community. I truly do.
I know you do, Talisa. And I got to ask what's going on the show today because you are super busy this month.
Yes, on the show today, we are going to dive deeper in Young Man University with Dr. Jeffrey Portrayal. He has an amazing program that when some of our children make some very poor choices and they have to go to his academy, a Young Man University, and what he has done is seeing guys that's going down the wrong path, got them on the right path. And for me, I'm excited to even hear of a success story of some young brothers that went down the wrong path, but now they went to his university, got the tools that they needed, and they bought their first rental property. They are true entrepreneurs. Dr. Portrayal and I, we all talk about some of the answers that we can curb this crime and this poverty in some of our young people is to teach them how to be an entrepreneur so they can take that negative energy and use it to build their brand and build their businesses. So I'm excited to share that conversation on today.
That sounds amazing. You are amazing, Talisa Franklin. We appreciate you so much each and every week. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for all you do for Memphis and the Mid-South.
Oh, thank you. Love you all.
Love you too. All right, so now let's talk about a 5-star story that Kim Clark did, and it was way up top at the Peabody Hotel. Yes, the rooftop parties, 8 decades in the making at the South's Grand Hotel, celebrating 8 decades of fun there. Kim Clark shows us.
Party season has begun again, high atop the Peabody Hotel in the heart of downtown Memphis. These rooftop soirees have a long history.
84 years we have been having parties on the rooftop of the Peabody Hotel.
According to Kelly Brock, the hotel's director of marketing and communications, the hotel's rooftop parties began in 1939 after the east end of the roof was enclosed, becoming the Skyway Ballroom.
And that was when they really started having rooftop parties out on the roof, as well as parties in here in the wintertime and during the rain. And it was the place to be for big bands and for swing dancers. All of the big national acts, the touring acts, performed here for sometimes weeks at a time. You had the Andrews Sisters and Lawrence Welk. You had Ozzie and Harriet, Tommy Dorsey's band, and George Hamilton.
Yes, that George Hamilton, father to actor George Hamilton Jr., who spent a lot of time performing on the hotel's roof.
And George Hamilton Jr. was actually born here in Memphis and spent weeks as a child growing up here at the hotel, watching his father perform here in the Skyway Ballroom and watching the ducks in the lobby.
The hotel's Sunset Serenades, as they were called back then, were also an important part of the entertainment industry as a whole.
And this ballroom and the rooftop were one of the only 3 live recording sites for CBS radio at the time. So you would hear broadcasts throughout the nation, live from atop the Peabody Hotel.
The Sunset Serenades ended briefly in 1975 when the hotel closed, but started up again in 1981 after the hotel reopened.
And eventually we renamed them as Peabody Rooftop Parties, and they've been going on ever since, and they are as popular as ever.
Though the fashions, music, and diversity of attendees are different now than when it all began, some things remain the same.
We still have live music and a DJ.
Skyway Ballroom also intentionally maintained to appear as it did back in 1939, from the Lawrence Welk-inspired carpet, note the bubbles, to the lighting.
You still have the pink neon lighting that you had. It's very Art Deco style at the time.
As Brock told us, the Peabody Rooftop is still one of the best places in town to sit and have a drink with friends and watch the sunset over the Mississippi River. Or possibly make a love match like so many before.
There's fantastic stories from folks that came here in the 1930s, 40s, 50s, and then there's people still doing the same thing today, coming up here with their friends, and maybe they meet their future husband or their future wife. And it's stories like that that are just, that's the heart of the Peabody.
The Peabody Rooftop Parties still going strong and welcoming all who attend while making lifelong memories and connections. In downtown Memphis, Kim Clark, Action News 5.
Okay, let's talk about two different observances this week. It's Nurses Week and it's Healthcare Week, and we are joined right now to talk about these two observances with Tasha Jackson. She is the Chief Nursing Officer at Methodist South Hospital. Good morning, Tasha. Let's talk about these two observances this week and how you guys are observing this week. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me this morning. Yes, we are observing Nurses Week as well as Healthcare Week. So we're starting with Nurses Week in celebration of Florence Nightingale, who is the founder of nursing. Her actual birthday is May the 12th. So that is how across America, nurses are celebrating Nurses Week in honor of Florence Nightingale. And then here at Methodist Healthcare, we're also celebrating Healthcare Week since there's a multidisciplinary approach to providing patient care. So not only are we recognizing nurses, we're recognizing all of the healthcare across our Methodist system.
All right, and that's a lot of healthcare. So, Tosha, let's talk about some of the activities planned to celebrate nurses at Methodist.
So we're starting with things such as Nurses Survival Kit. Of course, there's lots of chocolate in these little bags. We're also having food trucks. At Methodist Germantown, we have goats so that the nurses and the rest of the haircare team can go out and pet goats. At our university hospital, there's a dunk tank. And there is a fundraiser where our executives get in a dunk tank and staff can dunk them for a fee. And that goes towards raising money within our humanitarian fund. And that fund goes back to our associates when they're in need or they need help with versus different things throughout their lives while they're here at Methodist. At Olive Branch, there would be a blessing of the hands, as well as, food trucks, things like that. At Methodist North, they have Wacky Sock Day. So just to have a little fun, each nurse or any healthcare worker can wear their wacky socks and display them on social media. And then, of course, at Le Bonheur, we're doing various things at Le Bonheur as well. And they also have wacky socks, and they'll be delivering food and candy to all the nurses throughout the week. Lots of fun.
Yeah, I understand there's like each Methodist facility is doing different things in Germantown and Methodist University. Tell me some of the things.
Yeah, so that's what we were just talking about. We have the goats coming. We have the wacky socks. We have, candy being delivered. We have the nurse survival kit with the chocolate. Just various things that's fun. Food trucks are always a hit. Where the nurses can go out and enjoy various foods.
Brain fart.
Always a hit. Yes.
Absolutely. That's my fault there. Okay, so let's move over to Healthcare Week activities.
So what we're doing for Healthcare Week is we're having picnics. Every associate has a T-shirt, and you can see my T-shirt, you may not. But we gave associates T-shirts where we're all celebrating Healthcare Week and having outdoor picnics with music, great celebration, and that is for all shifts. We tend to celebrate day shift, night shift, weekend shift. So we will pretty much be partnering all week. Now, we will be taking care of patients, so that will not go unnoticed. We still will provide high patient care, high quality patient care, but we still want to make sure we celebrate all of our associates and a multidisciplinary team that comes together to take care of our patients. Post-pandemic, it's been hard coming out of COVID and really celebrating things. Well, now we're trying to, at Methodist Le Bonheur Healthcare, celebrate our workers and make sure they know that they are appreciated for everything that they do.
Anything else you'd like to mention before we let you go?
I would just like to say, if you know a nurse and you're on social media or you pass a nurse in the hallway, just thank a nurse this week. And then if you go along your day, just thank a healthcare worker. Sometimes just a simple thank you will just make our day and just brighten our load a little bit. So just thank a nurse. And that is all I have. Thank you for having me today.
You got it. Well, listen, Tasha Jackson, we appreciate you and everything that you do, along with your staff there at Methodist Le Bonheur Hospitals and Healthcare. Have a great week, Nurses Week, Healthcare Week. Enjoy the week and all the festivities. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, check it out. Memphis in May has begun, and one of the best things about Memphis in May, the Memphis Greek Festival. Absolutely. It's coming up, not this weekend, next weekend, May 12th, May 13th. That's Mother's Day weekend, but don't worry, Mother's Day has its own day. It's Sunday. We got Friday and Saturday, though, for you to go to the Greek island on Highland, and so many great things to see at the Memphis Greek Festival. One of the best things to see is Kathy Zambella. She's always there. She's always happy and festive. She's joining us on the digital desk. Kathy, good morning. How are you?
Oppa, I'm doing awesome. How are you?
Doing great, my friend. So great to talk to you and talk about the Memphis Greek Festival. We are excited, and I know that Memphis and the Mid-South's very excited because this is one of the best festivals of the year, and I think if there are people that maybe haven't gone in a while, or perhaps some that are new to town, they've never been at all, go ahead and give us just kind of a rundown of what people can expect when they go there.
You know, you can expect just to be embraced by our beautiful Greek Orthodox community. We love feeding people. We love our Greek music. We love our dancing. We love our faith. We want people to go into our gorgeous sanctuary for the beautiful church tours by our Father Simon. And we want to let everybody know, come be Greek for 2 days. Next Friday and Saturday from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. We have free shuttles. We want you to park either at the Popper Plaza Shopping Center or at Life Church on Highland. We will drop you off right at that front gate. Bring 3 canned goods because we're partnering with the Mid-South Food Bank, and we want to fill that truck up to help all of the people of the Mid-South. Then come into our church, go into the wonderful dining hall. We're going to have wonderful, delicious Greek chicken rigonato, pork tenderloin, lamb, our huge pastry corner, our It's Greek to Me cookbook. We've got, you're talking about Mother's Day, we've got gifts for mom. So if you don't know what to get mom, come to the Greek Festival. We're going to have special Mother's Day baskets available. We have a wonderful lady that does jewelry. We're going to have Greek olive oil and spices, and you know, our live Greek band, our wonderful Athenian dance troupe's going to be performing Friday night and again on Saturday. And we have Greek pizza and loukoumades and gyros and pastitso, moussaka, wonderful wines and beers, just everything talking about being Greek.
You know, you went down the entire the entire thing. Yes, there is something for everybody. You know, sometimes when I talk to people about it, I'm like, look, this is the best festival. You got to go. Sometimes people are intimidated by a couple of things. One is the parking. You know, oh, where do we park? It looks so jam-packed. And I love the fact that there's a park and ride shuttle that has been set up for years where people don't have to worry about parking. We will take you there. And then the other thing is you get free admission if you just bring in 3 canned goods for the Mid-South Food Bank. I think those are 2 great opportunities for people to say, you know what, here is admission is free and you have a place to park, no issues.
Absolutely. And, you know, the biggest thing is we do have our drive-through, and a lot of people like to come on Friday, go to the drive-through maybe through their lunch break, and they may see a special person there. I don't know, you, Andrew Douglas, and then come back on Saturday and bring the kids. It's a family event. We have the bounce house and face painting, wonderful Greek artifacts from the folks at Ole Miss at the Greek Museum there. Just so much fun.
Okay, so now I want to take a look at some of the menu that's been posted online because this is getting a lot of people in the newsroom very hungry. Let's talk about the menu a little bit.
So if we go into the fellowship hall and Katros Hall, you're going to get a choice of the chicken rigonato, the pork tenderloin, the souvlaki, or lamb, and with that comes our delicious spanakopita, the Greek green beans, the rice, the bread. And if you go on our website or in Eventbrite, you can save $5 and get the meal for $20. So that is just a great deal. If you don't know about Greek pastries, parties, we do have a pre-pack that's already done for you. It's just you pick it up and you go. But if everybody does have some of their favorites, whether it's baklava or colombiadas or whatever it is, we've got those pre-packed and ready to go as well. So, and outside in the menu, our wonderful youre, the pizza's amazing. The delicious lucamadas, those are like warm honey donuts with delicious honey on the top and cinnamon powder sugar. And then our Greek lasagna, which we call pastizo, our Greek eggplant parmesan, if you will, that's called moussaka, and just so much deliciousness. And don't worry about calories. That doesn't even count at the Freak Festival because we're going to put you on the dance floor, and that's the best cardio you've ever had.
Yes, that is so great. I want to accentuate the one thing you just said where people can save $5. So we're talking about free admission by bringing 3 canned goods there, and you can save $5 on food by doing what now?
If you go to Eventbrite, and that also includes the free admission, and you'll get the choice of the chicken or the pork tenderloin meals, as well as a water bottle as well. So that's a great deal for $25 value for $20.
That's fantastic. And then you mentioned plenty of time on the dance floor to work off some of those calories. We have the Athenian dance troupe doing those folk dances. My son's involved with that, so I'm really excited to see him. It'll be his last time doing it. I know. And they have, I think, a performance on Friday and then 2 on Saturday, right?
Yeah, 6 p.m. on Friday night and then noon and 6 p.m. on Saturday. We do not want you to miss that. That is definitely a crowd pleaser. And our wonderful friend, Costa Costanis and his sons, they get into the music. We get into the music. We love sounding of the bouzouki. And it doesn't matter if you don't know how to Greek dance. You just join in and, just kick your feet. That's all you need to do and be happy.
So, and do we know what number festival this is? Isn't this up in the 60s, right?
64th.
64, man.
And we are 64. A well-oiled machine, my friend.
No question about it. And, the way I like to look at it is this is the original Memphis in May because Memphis in May is 40-something years old. This is 64, right?
Yes, we squeeze in right between Music Fest and Barbecue Fest. So we feel like we're part of the Memphis in May organization.
Exactly. Kathy, we appreciate you. Thank you so much. You. God bless you. And really looking forward to a great weekend, May 12th and 13th at the Little Island on Highland. 573.
Absolutely. And you have to bring your opa.
Exactly. Opa. And tell us what opa means again.
Opa is just joyful. We say like ole, maybe in Spanish, but if you better come and you better know it because I'm going to ask everybody, what are you supposed to say? And everybody screams, Opa!
We love you, Kathy. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Okay, the opioid overdose rate among teens has increased significantly in recent years. It's prompting Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders to take action. It's now law in Arkansas for public high schools and higher education institutions to keep naloxone on campus. Gary Burton Jr. has more on that.
This one's cute when he was little.
Taking a look down memory lane, Kimberly Ashley Pauley sifts through photos of her son Joshua as his 9-year death anniversary inches closer.
He had several things in his system. 4 different types of opiates.
On May 12th, 2014,
the day after Mother's Day,
Kimberly said goodbye. Those with Joshua didn't call for medical help because of fear of running into trouble with the law.
Back then, even if he had called 911, first responders did not carry. The only one that carried Narcan at that time was EMTs.
But now they do, as well as all public high schools and colleges supported by the state. Thursday, Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders made it law for Narcan kits to be visible and labeled on campus.
Those are some of the things that you never want to have to use, but you also want to have it in case you need it.
Dr. Jeremy Owa, superintendent for the Jacksonville North Pulaski School District, says he looks to have all his staff members trained to know how to use the Narcan, although the bill only requires school nurses and resource officers to carry it at all times.
The high school, we have 1,200 kids. Our nurse can only be so many places.
The CDC says opioid overdose deaths in teens aged 14 to 18 increased by 94% between 2019 to 2020. OWA and Ashley Pauley says it's good to see the state being proactive when it comes to saving lives.
Our state has done amazing things. I'm very proud of our state.
Can the police hold you at gunpoint in your home without a warrant? That is the question two renters are asking after police mistakenly raided their apartment in the middle of the night and took them into custody. Our national investigative reporter Brendan O'Keefe looks into the case and discovered some officers worked for the apartment complex while off duty. Take a look.
Roswell Police, if you're inside, make yourself known now.
No knock.
Roswell Police, come to the sound of my voice. Is the door closed?
No warrant.
Hey, man, come. Show me your hands. Show me your hands. Manos arriba.
Were you afraid? ¿Tuviste miedo?
Sí, tuve miedo.
Yes, I was afraid. I was scared.
Aquí ahora.
Officers forced Mario Melgar from his apartment at gunpoint and took him into custody.
Get him out of the way.
¿Por qué? ¿Por qué? Why? Why?
Pues no sé por qué.
Well, I don't know because they put the handcuffs on me for nothing.
708, Is someone living? Is it supposed to be vacant? It's not supposed to be vacant. Okay.
The officers with a specialized unit were looking for squatters in vacant apartments in June of last year. A broken window attracted their attention.
This is 100% supposed to be vacant? About 90% sure.
The armed entry team had their doubts from the beginning.
Looks pretty furnished. Hold it, I can go confirm. You go confirm before we go further into this.
Detective Charles Craig checked the rent roll again and again.
A bunch of squatters, but I don't think this is going to be related.
That apartment was listed as occupied and fully paid up on rent.
Do you live here? Yeah. You live here? Yeah. Okay, show them vacant.
Even after Detective Craig checked the list, Mario and his roommate Marco were detained as suspects.
Pero tienes derechos. You have rights.
Exactly.
The rent roll that you're referring to, the document that you're checking for vacancies on, where did you receive that document from?
I got it from the property manager.
Both Detective Craig and the officer with the ballistic shield and gun just inside the apartment received paychecks from the city and from the apartments.
Did you know Officer Craig worked for this apartment complex as an extra job?
No.
When a private business hires an off-duty police officer, they get more than just the person. They get the police uniform, the officer's badge, the officer's gun, their arrest powers, and in some cases, on-duty loyalty to their off-duty employer.
I f***ed up. I read the list wrong. It wasn't the list that was wrong. I read it wrong.
We don't know how much money the apartments paid any of the officers because the Roswell Police Department doesn't track off-duty hours or pay.
How long after that time when you realized this apartment wasn't on the list of vacant apartments did you finally release the person who was in handcuffs?
Too long, 10, 15 minutes.
Okay. And during that 10 to 15 minutes, if you had to estimate, how many more times do you think you lied to try to save face during that interaction with the officers and the person who was handcuffed?
Multitude on the same thing to try to save face and try to make it go away.
I don't understand. They're supposed to be here?
Yeah, they're good. They live here.
Mario and Marco were released with an apology.
When we determined the officer lied, he was told that he was going to be terminated and he quit before he was fired.
What would you like to see changed?
I would like them to be more careful.
Show me your hands.
So that type of things don't happen again.
Come on. Get him out of the way.
We had some overnight storms that packed a punch, even a few severe thunderstorm warnings overnight, especially north of Memphis, but most of those storms ended quickly, and now we have a lingering front across the Mid-South. That's going to be the focus for more isolated to scattered showers and thunderstorms as we go through the next few days. Now, it may not be a washout in all areas, and some of you may not see as much as others, but definitely going to be in a warm, somewhat muggy pattern across much of the region. Let's show you what this lingering front will do. It kind of hangs out just to the south of Memphis and eventually will move back north of the area. And as it does, again, there could be showers or thunderstorms on either side of it, but there will be several dry periods as well all the way through the weekend. So let's talk about the short term. Futurecast shows dry conditions this morning as we go through the afternoon. There could be a pop-up shower or thunderstorm, especially in areas where those storms earlier this morning died out. So So even here in Memphis and Shelby County, parts of northeast Mississippi, maybe northeast Arkansas as well. Looks dry tomorrow, temperatures around 70 or so. And then the coverage of showers and storms tomorrow afternoon, a little bit higher, I think, as we go into the afternoon and evening hours. So we'll have to watch for some heavy rain, some gusty wind, nothing severe really with any of this, but certainly there could be some stronger storms that have even some intense lightning as well. You can go back 12 hours and look at this big cluster that came out of Missouri overnight, and it just raced across the Mid-South from the north. The models picked up pretty well on this yesterday and the potential for it, and so they moved through and then just kind of fell apart as they entered into northeast Mississippi. 86 for a high today, clouds, some sunshine, and an isolated downpour. Can't be ruled out in the afternoon. Maybe a storm or two, but I think it's just some isolated spots with heavy rain. Here's a look at high temperatures today. 87 in Covington and Ripley, 86 in Somerville, West Tennessee, warming up. We hit 87 yesterday in Memphis, very close to the same thing today. Maybe as high as 88 or 89 in Tunica and Marks, back toward Corinth around 86. And it looks like upper 80s across much of eastern Arkansas. As we check out the first alert, 7-day forecast, those temperatures will be in the mid 80s, maybe some low 80s. And again, coverage may be a little higher in some spots tomorrow or Thursday. But as we head toward the weekend, just some spotty showers here and there, temperatures hanging in the mid to upper 80s.
Good morning, everyone. Andrew Douglas in the Action News 5 digital desk. Inflation and interest rates, they are still running hot, leaving many consumers hesitant to spend money on items and activities that they truly love. And there's also concerns of a recession, if we're headed towards one, if we're in one right now. Let's bring in a smart shopping expert, Trey Bodge, to talk more about consumers and their spending habits, what they're concerned about. Trey, good morning. Let's talk about the latest spending trends and the challenges that Americans face right now.
Thank you so much for having me. This is such an important topic. Obviously, as you said, inflation continues to arise, and what we are seeing right now is a bit of a spending slowdown year over year, and then from March over February, month over month. Consumers are keeping their wallets a little bit closer. They're spending less. But of course, at the same time, we're heading into summer. We're wanting to travel. We have all these gifts to give, Mother's Day, Father's Day, grads, weddings. And so it's a tough time because consumers want to spend, but may not have the money to do so. And we're obviously avoiding debt as well because debt is more expensive. So it's a little bit of a tricky time financially for many Americans.
Yeah, no question about it, Trey. And I was just going to ask you, I mean, we got Mother's Day this weekend. Next month, we have Father's Day. Got a couple graduates in my family, got to get gifts for. How do we stay on budget with all this stuff?
So that is a great question, and that is really the key point here. We want to stay on budget. So I would suggest taking a couple minutes and taking a look at your budget, seeing if there's wiggle room, and then getting a sense of how much you can spend per person, and then planning your gift giving accordingly. The other thing that I would say is look for ways to save. Because this is such a big gift giving time, a lot of retailers will be offering sales. And so you should take advantage of looking at your favorite deals site to see if you can maybe get a coupon or earn some cash back. And then also don't ignore your memberships. You might have discounts coming that you don't even know are there. So for example, if you're an AARP member and you haven't bought some flowers for mom yet, there are amazing discounts with FTD. You can save 25% site-wide right now. And there are ways to save additionally on select bouquets by using code AARP30 or AARP40 to save on select bouquets. So by taking those extra steps, you can save significantly.
I like those ideas, memberships, coupons, that sort of thing. What about celebrations? Going out and trying to fight the crowds on Mother's Day is something that nobody wants to be a part of. And I understand that maybe celebrating at home might be a better option. Tell me more.
Yeah, so I love that. I mean, I am not one to go out and fight the crowds on Mother's Day either. And obviously, sometimes there's a prefix menu and there aren't things on there that everyone wants. And so I say celebrate at home. And a great way to do that is to do it collaboratively with the people around you. Have a potluck. Everyone loves to show off their favorite or their famous cookie recipe or their chili recipe. Have everyone bring something. And that obviously impacts the amount of time that you're spending to plan and also the amount that you're spending as well financially. So that's a really good way to lighten the load and have a great time at the same time.
So after we get all this, Mother's Day, Father's Day, graduations, we're still trying to keep to that budget, stick to it as much as possible. And sometimes your health and health checkups might get in the way of that, or at least you don't want to initially spend for something like that. How can we stay on the budget, but yet still pay attention to our health to keep it at optimal levels?
Right. So throughout the pandemic, so many people stopped going to the doctor. Obviously, we were afraid to for a while, and then we just kind of put those things on the back burner. So I'm suggesting to everyone to get back on that schedule, get your regular checkups, because obviously health problems are more expensive than being healthy, right? And then I would also say if you're interested in maybe getting your hearing checked or your eyes checked, these are very important things as well. And if you happen to be an AARP member, there are ways to save on both of those areas. So believe it or not, there are ways to save on your health care as well. And so you really want to keep up with those appointments and then make sure to get your hearing and eyes checked at the same time.
Anything else, Trey, before we let you go? This has been some great ideas and suggestions for people.
Yeah, so the last thing that I would say, because interest is so high, it's really important to try to avoid credit card debt because debt becomes more expensive when the interest rates are high. So try to stay within your budget when you're buying these gifts or hosting these gatherings, and you'll be much better for it.
All right, Trey Baj, a smart shopping expert there. We really appreciate you joining us here on the Digital Desk. Thanks for the recommendations and suggestions. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me.
Okay, University of Phoenix survey commissioned with the Harris poll highlights the responsibilities and opportunities to create inclusive work environments for employees with disabilities. Let's bring in Kelly Herman. She is the Vice President of Accessibility, Equity, and Inclusion for the University of Phoenix to talk more about this. Kelly, good morning. Let's talk about what, in fact, is accessibility in the workplace.
Sure. Thanks for having me this morning. So disability, as we know, is an aspect of diversity, and accessibility allows us to ensure that people with disabilities feel included and welcomed. And so it means that we've taken some steps to provide reasonable accommodations so that our individuals with disabilities can perform their tasks independently. But it also means that businesses and organizations or institutions of learning, like where I work, have taken some steps to provide resources and tools that actually remove barriers to full participation and access.
So tell us about this survey about workplace accessibility and what were some of the key findings, Kelly?
Sure. So at the University of Phoenix, we're focused on adult learners and on preparing them for the next step in their career journey. So we wanted to learn a little bit more about the experiences that employees with disabilities were having from an HR lens so that we could share that information with our students and have them use that information as they prepare for their next steps and potentially having to advocate for themselves and request accommodations as they build their social capital. So we learned that nearly 3 in 4 HR professionals wish their company would do more for individuals with disabilities. But at the same time, 94% of them told us that their company has programs, initiatives, or activities in place to hire, train, and or retain employees with disabilities, which obviously is great news. We also wanted to look a little bit more about mental health and well-being. And it's been a growing concern since the start of the pandemic. And most HR professionals indicated that their company does provide insurance so that employees can go out and get the resources that they need. But some direct services that our students might be accustomed to on college campuses today may not be as prevalent. So things like workshops or partnerships for free or discounted counseling, employee resource groups or ERGs, and on-site counseling, just to name a few.
So how can employees with disabilities thrive in the workplace? And then what are we supposed to do? I know that there's a Global Accessibility Awareness Day. How should we mark that day?
Sure. So great questions. And I think, for employees with disabilities, first and foremost, they need to understand a little bit more about how their disability affects them. We say often that when you've met one person with a disability, you've met exactly one person with a disability. There's an individual nature to how that diagnosis is going to affect each individual person. And the person themselves has to understand more about what it means for them and what it means for accommodations, especially as they ask their employer for those accommodations or talk about their disability with others. And I think when you look at Global Accessibility Awareness Day, this year will be the 12th year that that we're marking that day, and it really is intended to raise awareness and help all of us learn more about how disability affects individuals, what it means to be disabled in today's society, especially with an emphasis and focus on digital content and resources. So things like looking at your website and how individuals with disabilities might interact with them, thinking about even simple things like sharing hyperlinks when you've got those really long alphabet soup URLs, making those into descriptive hyperlinks to make them a little bit easier for individuals with disabilities who use assistive technology to navigate through those. Those are some of the things that we can look at in terms of Global Accessibility Awareness Day. And for all of us who are colleagues and allies, learning more about disability, learning more about accommodations, and what our role is in creating inclusive environments and how we can be supportive of our colleagues, and maybe not necessarily think about accommodations as a get out of jail free card, but more so for our colleagues as the important step that they need to be able to level the playing field so that they can demonstrate what they can do.
Talked about a number of different issues there. Any place we can go online to find all this stuff, including the survey from the Harris poll?
Absolutely. You can go to phoenix.edu/media-center.
Okay, Kelly Herman, we really appreciate you joining us on the Digital Desk. Thanks very much.
Thanks for having me.
Good morning, everyone. Andrew Douglas in the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Now, we know that Memphis and the Mid-South, when it comes to the Summer Olympic Games, you come to us. Action News 5 is your Olympic station. Well, we are in for a treat this morning. We have the most decorated American track and field Olympian of all time joining us on the Digital Desk. I'm talking about Allison Felix with us this morning. Allison, good morning to you. We saw you on the Today Show just a couple of weeks ago. Tell me how you're doing.
Good morning. I'm doing really well. I am, really enjoying life after track and doing well. Can't complain.
So I really appreciate you taking a few minutes to talk with us, Allison. Bring us up to speed on you, on your career, and for some of our viewers, because we have thousands of people watching us right now, just tell us a little bit about your background and so people are familiar with your story.
I have been running professional track and going to the Olympics for a very long time now. I've been to 5 Olympic Games, and I just recently retired and have a daughter, so I'm really enjoying time at home. I also have a business called Seish, where we make women's footwear designed for and by women. And so all of those things are keeping me really busy these days.
Excellent, excellent. So, let's talk a little bit about, we have National Small Business Day. You mentioned you're a mom. You have a footwear company that's designed and for women, designed by women, for women. You got so much going on. You have Small Business Day coming up on, I believe it's May 10th. And so how are you marking this occasion with everything you got going on?
Yes, it's a lot, but I am so excited to celebrate with my daughter this year. I just really want to foster her dreams. She loves to bake. And so we came up with Cammie's Cookies. We're going to have a bake sale, and she's just been introduced to counting money. And so we're really excited to do that.
I understand your alma mater named their stadium after you. Tell me about that.
Yes, I had the honor of the field at my track being named the Allison Felix Field, which was something that I would never have dreamed of or imagined, but just an incredible honor.
So I find it interesting, and so does my producer, Amanda, that you are this incredible, accomplished track and field athlete, but yet you're playing tennis now. Tell me about that.
Yes, just trying to, come up with some new ways to stay active and creative. So many things on my plate, like this bake sale with my daughter that we're just really excited about for National Small Business Day. And partnering with HP has been incredible to be able to do that. They have so many resources online to be able to come up with fun business plans and printables. So we've had a great time just with that process and designing everything. And it's been really a lot of fun to be able to do that.
Let me ask you about this, because this came to us this week, and I don't know if you know Tori Bowie. She was a 32-year-old world champion sprinter from Mississippi, and she died suddenly. Were you familiar with her? She's an Olympic athlete as well. And if so, what will you remember about her? It was just an awful, sudden thing.
Yes, Tori is, she was my teammate for a very long time. So yeah, still just even trying to process just such incredibly sad news. And so it's an honor to be her teammate, and I'll just continue to celebrate her life and just really lift up her family during this time.
No question about it. And our thoughts and prayers are with her and her family as well. Thank you for saying those things, Allison. Let's talk about some simple ideas on this Small Business Day. I mean, switching gears a little bit because it is coming up later this month. And you mentioned your daughter, who's 4 years old, and I know that there's plenty of parents out there that have either lemonade stands and car washing events. What kind of advice, or what are you thinking about when it comes to that kind of thing later on the Small Business Day later this month?
Yeah, I think as a parent, there is nothing that we enjoy more than really fostering those dreams and encouraging our kids to dream big. And so I have really just taken to that. I love that HP has all of these amazing resources that they offer for kids to be able to do that. And then also just making sure that I'm ready to go. I think there's nothing worse than having all this momentum and energy and then getting ready to design and, print signage and not having ink and paper. So I love that they have this amazing HP Instant paper add-on service where ink and paper is delivered straight to your home. So that hasn't been an issue in our household. But I'm just really excited to help my daughter. Obviously, business is important in my life, and I want her to have that same entrepreneurial spirit.
You've been involved in the Olympics. As I mentioned at the top, you're the most decorated American track and field Olympian of all time. Give me some amazing memories that you will never forget, some of the high points that come to mind when you think about your track and field career.
I think just everything the Olympic spirit embodies. I've had the best time competing in the most amazing places, meeting incredible friends, and just that thrill of being able to compete on that stage. It's something that I will never forget. I've learned so many lessons, and I feel so blessed to have been able to just represent my country.
Do you see your daughter as perhaps someone who may carry the torch, so to speak?
I'm definitely seeing athletic signs, but I just really want her to pursue whatever she wants to do. I'm getting her involved in all kinds of things, dance, and we're playing soccer, and so she'll have plenty of time for that when it comes around.
Absolutely. And, we're in Memphis. We broadcast to Mississippi, Arkansas, West Tennessee. We are friends with Rochelle Stevens, an Olympic gold medalist from back in the 90s when the games were in Atlanta. Have you ever been to the Memphis Mid-South area? If so, where'd you go?
I actually was just recently in Tennessee, visiting some friends. And so, it's an area that I get to every now and then, but I would love to come back more.
Excellent, excellent. Well, listen, Allison, this has been fantastic. Really appreciate you, and congratulations on all your success, both on and off the track. And God bless you and your family and your beautiful daughter. Thanks for taking time for us.
Of course. Thanks for having me this morning.
Okay, let's talk about the president meeting with congressional leaders today about the debt ceiling crisis. John Lawrence has more.
The battle in the Beltway over the U.S.'s $31.4 trillion debt ceiling is like an unstoppable force heading toward an immovable object. Eventually, something's going to have to give.
Neither side really is eager to see a default. So, you know, they obviously have tough negotiations ahead.
President Joe Biden and most Democratic lawmakers want the limit raised without any cuts.
Well, there is no plan B. Our plan is for Congress to act to address the debt limit without conditions, just like they've done 78 times in the past.
House Speaker Kevin McCarthy and most Republicans say they will boost the ceiling, but with some purse tightening.
Look at the inflation rate now, 6 to 7% per month, year over year. This is just emptying out people's pockets.
Biden, McCarthy, House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries, and Senators Chuck Schumer and Mitch McConnell are discussing the matter Tuesday. And the clock is ticking. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen says the U.S. could default as soon as June 1st.
I think in the end, if we're coming to the deadline and they're still at an impasse, my guess is that they'll find a way to extend the time limit and give themselves more time to talk.
I'm John Lawrence reporting.
Check out that cover. Memphis magazine this month, May edition. Beautiful. Look at that. That reminds me of late spring, some summer, local adventures. And someone that's been taking some local adventures and posting it on social media, Anna Traverse-Vogel, joining us on the Action News 5 digital desk. I love the cover, and I love talking about all kinds of different adventures across Memphis and the Mid-South.
Yeah, so we've got a cover story focus on what we're calling local adventures. We've sometimes called this staycation, but, you know, I feel like local adventures really sums it up more in terms of being able to get out of your house, getting into the world, and really exploring and trying on some new activities. So as you can see on the cover, one of the things that we went out and did so that we could report back to our readers is we went canoeing on the Mississippi River. So there's a local guide named Matthew Burdine who has been taking folks out in these really impressive canoes, which sounded a little bit unwise to me at first, but I have to say, once I got out there, I absolutely had a blast. I actually ended up going out twice because it was just so much fun and such a unique way to see our city. So what you see on the cover is actually a group of people in a canoe, and that is the Mississippi River, not some placid lake. So it's really quite an experience, but highly, highly recommend.
So I'm looking at that picture, Anna. That seems like a lot of people in a canoe. You're not in there, is there?
No, so that's actually a different group, and that's a photo that Matthew allowed us to use. But our canoes that we went out on with him were just as long, and he has these really impressive canoes that have really large hulls, and like they're just very, very sturdy. I think maybe seaworthy type of canoes. I'm not an expert, but you know, you feel a lot more secure in this canoe. And of course, so much of it is that Matthew is an experienced guide. He used to take people out on the Colorado River and, you know, just really knows what he's doing. So even though a small part of me, having grown up in Memphis and having this like healthy respect, shall we say, for the river, I thought I was going to be petrified. As soon as we actually got out there, I was like, this is amazing. Like, I had such a good time. It was almost like giddy making.
Well, you sold it well in your social media post talking about it. I'm totally sold on it. And being an Eagle Scout myself and gone canoeing plenty of times, not only just with me, but also with my son, who's also an Eagle Scout. I love the outdoors, and I love all kinds of different things, including canoeing. So I'm really interested to read it and
I grew
check
up
it out.
canoeing on, smaller rivers and lakes. So, the motion of the paddle feels very familiar, but it just would never have occurred to me to go canoeing on our river here. So it really did sort of reintroduce me to my own hometown. And, what Matthew talks about is like some places have a vertically grand world, like mountains or the Grand Canyon or what have you, but our part of the country, the Delta, has a horizontally grand aspect to it. And so I thought that was a really unique way of seeing where we've been living all this time.
Yeah, I that would be ambitious to canoe the Mississippi River. I'm with you, though. I would definitely.
He's actually done the whole thing.
That is intense.
So a few years ago, apparently he canoed all of it. I don't know that I'm up for that just yet.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. All right, so Anna, tell us more about the magazine, because we got the adventure pages here. What else?
Yeah, absolutely. So also in our local adventure section, we didn't just go canoeing. We also sent our writers out to do all sorts of fun stuff. So Frank went out and did some rock climbing at Memphis Rocks in Soulsville. We went out to some listening rooms, over to the Botanic Gardens, a baseball game at AutoZone Park, just all sorts of different things that you can do to get active in Memphis this spring and summer. And then we also have a story in this issue about pet rescue. So, we talk to people who are doing several different kinds of pet rescue. All of my animals are rescue pets who have come to me one way or another, but we just sort of compiled different groups who are involved in local animal rescue. One that sometimes transports animals on planes, a woman who's very active on TikTok, but uses that as a platform to publicize the animals that she rescues. A woman who actually uses leftover copies of our sister publication, the Memphis Flyer, in kitten rescue. So, they say print is dead. But
I love it. I love it. Now, I do have a question, Anna. The artist of that pet rescue, is that anyone we would know?
No, that is an image that our art director found in his databases.
I gotcha. Okay. All right. And then what I loved also looking through this month's edition here is the farmhouse. I love the pictures.
Yes. So that was such a cool find. We do these habitats features on a pretty regular basis where we ask people to let us into their dwellings. So this month, Chris McCoy, who handles most of our habitats, our homes features, he brought this one to us, and it's such a cool story because it's this home that's like on Walnut Grove. It's over 100 years old, but it started its life as a farmhouse back when there wasn't much happening in that part of Shelby County. I mean, back in 1919, when the home was built, I don't know that there would have been very much around it. It looks like the current owners have really done a spectacular job. I have to admit, I'm fairly jealous of that kitchen. But I think that's really what these stories allow us to show is you might drive past a place every day for years and years and always sort of wonder, I wonder wonder what it's like inside that place. Well, we try to answer that question for you because I think we all have that curiosity. And this place just looks so stunning and so inviting.
I agree, and I think back to that house that you guys showcased a few months ago in Binghamton that was just beautiful, and someone had taken over. That was gorgeous, and so I love it when you guys do it, and it was certainly nice to see. Again, this is the latest edition of the Memphis magazine here. Beautiful cover, talking about local adventures, pet rescue, farmhouse, and much, much more. Anna, before we let you go, anything else you wanted to mention about this month's edition?
Just a quick little shout out to the small story that's on the last page of the magazine that's about Kong-Wei Peng, who is the artist who designed this year's Memphis in May art poster, the official poster. And it is just absolutely beautiful. Kong-Wei Peng lives and works in Memphis, but is actually from Malaysia, which is being saluted this year. So it's a really nice story about her and about the poster. And I have to say, it's just really, really stunning. I'll put it up here. So I thought that was a nice thing to spotlight, and that's how we close the magazine as we open the month. And we've got Music Fest this weekend, so I know everyone's excited to see how that goes.
Well, if you're at Music Fest and you see someone canoeing the Mississippi River, it might be Anna Traverse Vogel. She's sold on it. So seriously, appreciate you as always, Anna. I love it. I'm really looking forward to getting my edition in the mail. And thanks so very much for joining us. Print is not dead, emphatically. So thank you for all that you do.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Appreciate you.
We had some overnight storms that packed a punch, even a few severe thunderstorm warnings overnight, especially north of Memphis, but most of those storms ended quickly, and now we have a lingering front across the Mid-South. That's going to be the focus for more isolated to scattered showers and thunderstorms as we go through the next few days. Now, it may not be a washout in all areas, and some of you may not see as much as others, but definitely going to be in a warm, somewhat muggy pattern across much of the region. Let's show you what this lingering front will do. It kind of hangs out just to the south of Memphis and eventually will move back north of the area. And as it does, again, there could be showers or thunderstorms on either side of it, but there will be several dry periods as well all the way through the weekend. So let's talk about the short-term. Futurecast shows dry conditions this morning as we go through the afternoon. There could be a pop-up shower or thunderstorm, especially in areas where those storms earlier this morning died out. So even here in Memphis and Shelby County, parts of northeast Mississippi, maybe northeast Arkansas as well. Looks dry tomorrow, temperatures around 70 or so. And then the coverage of showers and storms tomorrow afternoon, a little bit higher, I think, as we go to the afternoon and evening hours. So we'll have to watch for some heavy rain, some gusty wind, nothing severe really with any of this, but certainly there could be some stronger storms that have even some intense lightning as well. You can go back 12 hours and look at this big cluster that came out of Missouri overnight, and it just raced across the Mid-South from the north. The models picked up pretty well on this yesterday and the potential for it, and so they moved through and then just kind of fell apart as they entered into northeast Mississippi. 86 for a high today, clouds, some sunshine, and an isolated downpour. Can't be ruled out in the afternoon. Maybe a storm or two, but I think it's just some isolated spots with heavy rain. Here's a look at high temperatures today. 87 in Covington and Ripley, 86 in Somerville, West Tennessee, warming up. We hit 87 yesterday in Memphis, very close to the same thing today, maybe as high as 88 or 89 in Tunica and Marks, back toward Corinth around 86, and it looks like upper 80s across much of eastern Arkansas. As we check out the first alert, 7-day forecast, those temperatures will be in the mid 80s, maybe some low 80s, and again, coverage may be a little higher in some spots tomorrow or Thursday, but as we head toward the weekend, just some spotty showers here and there, temperatures hanging in the mid to upper 80s.
Good morning, everyone. Andrew Douglas in the Action News 5 digital desk. Inflation and interest rates. They are still running hot, leaving.
All right, well, graduation season is upon us, and whether it's high school graduation and maybe wanting to further your education or enter the workforce, or college graduates accepting a new job, financial decisions can be so stressful, and just trying to navigate through that can be very difficult. So joining us to talk a little bit more about it is Ashley Feinstein-Gersley. She's the author of Financial Adulting, Everything You Need to Know to Be a Financially Confident and Conscious Adult. Ashley, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing well. Thank you for having me on.
So I guess the first thing I want to do is just dive right in. Let's talk about maybe what are some of the biggest mistakes or things that these young adults, whether it's 18 into your early 20s, where maybe they're making mistakes financially. What would you say is probably some of the biggest problems or things that they just don't know about?
Yes, I'd say two big things. The first, and I did both of these things, so it's coming from experience, is to wait to save until we have enough money to save. So there's this idea, and how we traditionally view saving is we earn money, we live our lives, we pay everybody else, and then we hope and wait that there will be money left over to save. And in my experience, that just doesn't work for most people. Even when we get a raise, there's still not money. So I would say pay ourselves first, pay yourself first is something that I would highly, highly recommend. And then the other is not having a plan. And I know that budgets get a bad rap. We think they might be restricting, they might limit our fun, but I view them as an act of self-love, because when we have a budget, we have a plan, we have peace of mind, we can build in things that are fun and have no guilt as we spend them, and just have clarity about where our money is going and reach our financial goals. So I would say not having a plan and waiting to save until we make more money are the two biggest mistakes that I see.
And when you talk about saving, is there a certain rule of thumb when you say you want to maybe save back this percentage of the money you're bringing in, or does it just depend on each individual's budget and what kind of money they're bringing in? What advice would you have for that?
Yes, so I would say it does depend. I am not a big fan of having a certain percentage as far as saving and investing and retirement, but I would say first and foremost, you want to have that crisis fund saved up. So that first $1,000, that first 1 month of expenses, and then from there building up to have a fully funded rainy day fund. So in case something happens with an illness or with our job, that we have money to pay for our expenses for 3 months, 6 months, depending on your personal situation.
And this is just a question for me, because I think way back, back in the day, a lot of people would have their checkbook and they would go in, and every time they would write a check, they would go in, they'd balance their checkbook. They had an idea of the money that was coming in, coming out. Do you feel like that now people really aren't using that checkbook and it's harder to maybe keep up with the money you're spending? Do you feel like that?
Yeah, I think technology has done some great things, but it makes it very easy to have no idea where our money is going. Even if you think about checkbooks are a great example, credit cards, we don't feel the pain of what we spent until the bill goes through, swiping our credit card, hopping in and out of a Lyft, we're not even really paying. So I think I'm a huge fan of having what I call money parties, which are time that we set aside to look at what's happened with our money over the last month or the last week. So actually go through and look at those expenses, because it is so easy to lose track of them. And I've had that experience where you see the credit card bill and you say, that wasn't me, but then you go through each and every expense and you realize, these things just add up. So having that time, if we don't look at our expenses, it's just not going to happen. And we need to carve out that time for ourselves.
Do you feel like that generation, you just get out of high school, you're coming out of college, that little group right there, a lot of times they're finally getting out of the house, they're starting to support themselves. Do you think that some of the biggest mistakes start off with credit cards, and maybe every time you go to a store and they say, well, you get 20% off if you apply for a credit card? Do you feel like that this generation can sometimes fall victim to that when it comes to credit cards? What are some of the biggest mistakes?
Yes. So I actually was one of the people who had that happen to me, and I didn't even understand how credit cards worked. I remember by the time I paid my bill, I had so many late fees. And so I do think there's this idea that it actually is something that I wish I knew when I graduated from school, that most people, we don't learn about this. And I'm seeing it more and more being taught in schools, which is wonderful. And I know parents want to be sharing this information with their kids, but they might not feel like they're equipped to do so. And so I do think there's this feeling when we graduate that we're the only ones who don't understand, and there can feel this like taboo of talking about it and asking questions. And what I've found is that most of us don't understand, and we're all learning as we go, and we're learning the hard way. And so I do think that that helps to feel less alone as we navigate this. But then also, yes, to really, I think there's a lot working against us when it comes to personal finance, and that we're not educated about it. There's like with the credit card, there's probably 50 pages of small print that I could have read to understand it. So I would definitely caution to really understand any financial products that we sign up for. Talk to people about it, because if they don't understand and you don't understand, you might be able to find someone else, or to go and figure it out together can feel less lonely as we navigate this.
I remember when I was in college, starting in college, credit card companies, they actually would set up booths on campus, and you would end up getting a credit card, and it would have this incredibly high interest rate, but you weren't educated on what to even look for, what to consider. So I mean, I can see how credit cards can really get people into trouble. I do want to switch gears though. Student loans, when a lot of people rely on student loans to be able to go to school, what kind of advice would you give when people start looking to see how much they need to be borrowing, because they do have to pay that back at some point?
Yes, so when we're going to, there's actually a chapter in the book dedicated to debt. So understanding credit cards, understanding student loans. And I think when we think about financing college, there are a lot of pieces that fund the pie. So there could be grants, there could be financial aid, there could be federal loans, there could be private loans. But at the beginning, when we're trying to figure out how much to take out, ideally we can minimize that pie. And in interviewing some experts on student loans for the book, I found that people actually can negotiate with their universities on what they're able to help them provide. In the worst case, that they say no, but then you're able to take out less debt, and then also to shop around with those private loans, just because we might think that that first offer we get is the best offer that we're going to get, but actually the offers can vary as far as interest rates. And when we're talking about numbers that are that big, it can make a huge difference if we're paying a 6% interest rate or an 8% interest rate or a 4% interest rate on our student loan. So I would say try to reduce the amount as much as possible, and then shop around for the best rate on those private loans.
Good advice. Now, for those that are maybe graduating college, they're getting into the workforce, what are the biggest pieces of advice that you would want to send to them as far as their finances go?
I'd say the biggest, so first, again, just you're not alone in figuring this out, and financial adulting, so that is the name of my new book. Being a financial adult is about taking small, consistent steps. And so I think sometimes with a lot of different goals, but specifically our finances, we view improving in that area that it has to be this overnight transformation, that I wake up, I spend the whole weekend making my financial plan, and I'm a new person. But that sets us up for failure because it's too much of a jump. And so taking small, consistent steps that are manageable, that feel like we can keep improving, I think is the way to go, because then we're improving and learning all year round. And then something that I wished that I did more of, and I know that so many looking back at the beginning of their careers wish they did, is start saving for retirement. Because when we're starting young, we have so much time to allow our money to grow and compound, and it just makes it so much easier on us later. And that money is coming out pre-tax, typically, when it's our 401k, so it actually feels less painful than you'd expect. So I'd say, looking back, that's something that a lot of people that I talk to wish they put more aside for retirement and let it grow for them.
And we've talked so much here at the Digital Desk about debt and what debt can do as far as your mental health and various other things that it can do. I love the name of the financial adulting. I love that. But do you feel like that one reason you decided to put this book together is because a lot of times people build up that debt while they're young, and then after they get out of college, they've built up all this debt as they're starting their new job. Do you feel like a lot of that debt ends up getting built up early on in life, and then you're just spending time trying to pay it back?
definitely is a big part of stress in the younger generation, and something you mentioned about the booths during college and getting a free t-shirt and having, you know, understanding that when we're paying that minimum payment, it isn't actually potentially making any dent in the balance, and our credit card could still be growing. So there's so much there, and I do think there's so much shame. First of all, there's a lot of stress around debt, especially when we're starting our careers and we might not have a lot of extra income to go towards those debt payments, but then also just the shame that comes with debt. And so I first love to talk, in the book I talk about what debt is, and it's really just money we owe for something we bought. It doesn't mean we're bad or that we did something wrong, or it could be a certain time in our life, it could be a mistake we made. But from there, really, I think sometimes when we have so much shame around the debt, it has us even not look at it. So I take everyone through a 3-step process to make a plan to manage and pay down debt by starting with looking at what it actually is. And that can be as stressful as that sounds to list out all that information. It can be really eye-opening. And then once we know what's happening, we can make a plan to manage it. So always better to have that information than to not look.
And educating yourself about what you need to know is so important. And you were mentioning about paying that minimum. I had a friend that during that age time between 18, early 20s, she got a bunch of credit cards and she told me, she's like, just pay the minimum payment. And I'm like, this is terrible advice. I guess any final points you want to make before we let you go?
I go back to that taking small, consistent steps. And you mentioned earlier why I wrote this book. And because so many of the things that you're mentioning are things that I made mistakes with. And I studied finance, I worked in finance, and I still knew nothing about my own finances. And so this is something that we are not set up for. So we want to learn as much as we can. And my goal is in writing this book and in the work I do that others don't have to make the same mistakes that I did and can progress through their financial lives with a lot less stress and potentially heartache.
Well, Ashley Feinstein-Gerstley, the author of Financial Adulting, Everything You Need to Know to Be a Financially Confident and Conscious Adult. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing some really great advice and some really good tips for our viewers this morning.
Thank you for having me.
All right, switching gears a little bit here in the Action News 5 digital desk. We've been talking about the month of May being Mental Health Awareness Month. We are joined now by Renee Dillard. She is Methodist Le Bonheur's Director of Employee Assistance, and she's going to talk to us about taking small steps each day to improve our overall mental health. Renee, good morning to you. Tell me, if someone is watching us right now, we have thousands that are online watching us, what would be some place to begin, or maybe a checklist to kind of say, okay, I need to address my mental health? Good morning.
Good morning. It's great to be with you today, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak to this topic. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, which is a renewed opportunity for us to really deepen our awareness around mental health and to do some work to continue to decrease maybe the stigma or the resistance to accessing mental health, even when we need it. So I really appreciate this question of what is it that we would be looking for? How would we know that maybe it's time to reach out for some additional support? I think some of the basic things to pay attention to would be, first of all, any changes in sleep and appetite, any changes in our mood. It's a normal, natural reaction for us to be stressed and anxious during really difficult times when we have a lot on our plate. I think, though, if those anxious thoughts persist, or perhaps a lower mood of depression, and we find ourselves beginning to isolate, and maybe it's difficult to meet our responsibilities, function well at work, maybe it's impacting our relationships. These are some of the signs to be watching for, so that we know that, yes, this is the time that I can remember that something's going on and I do not have to handle this all by myself. There are resources and helps available.
Okay, so now that we've identified that, and I think, you know, anything to come out of the pandemic when it comes to mental health is one of the few things positive, I guess you could say, out of the pandemic, is this focus on making sure our mental health is good and straight and above average. And so if we identify that perhaps maybe we have a problem, what are some steps, some guidelines, maybe bullet points that we can do to really kind of get us back into feeling more like ourselves?
It's important to begin with the foundation. Just a reality of being human is that we have particular needs. The good news is that some of the practices that we know are good for our physical health are also good for our mental health. So I always think it's important to begin with the foundation. Are we getting enough sleep? Are we eating some good, nutritious food? Are we drinking water? Are we having some sort of movement or exercise that we are weaving into our daily or weekly life? And one of the foundations for good self-care that is sometimes overlooked is that part of being human is also that we are built for connection. And so are we prioritizing time with family and friends? Are we focusing on the relationships where there is good mutual support so that we're not always the one giving in the relationship and we're not always the one receiving in the relationship? So that's kind of the foundation for me for good self-care and taking care of ourselves in body, mind, and spirit. Beyond that foundation, I think there are some really interesting practices that we can weave in really small ways, and yet they have a large impact. One is simply to recognize the emotional part of who we are. Sometimes our tendency is that because some of those feelings are uncomfortable when we are worried or scared or really sad or angry even, is that we tend to tuck all of that away. And again, emotions are simply part of being human, and eventually we can tuck those away for a little while and that'll work, but they're going to come out one way or another, maybe with some irritability, again, some impact on our relationships, and sometimes holding all that in can begin to impact our physical health in some detrimental ways as well. So it helps to just put language to what we're feeling, simply name it for what it is and kind of give ourselves some permission to feel it. And that alone sometimes will give those emotions a little bit of room to move, and then we can kind of deal with that and be on our way.
I totally agree. I mean, I love what you brought up, you know, just kind of like mindfulness, eat well, get some sunlight, spend time in nature, you know, these types of things, set out a connection, plenty of sleep. Let's say someone who's watching right now has done all those things and they are saying, you know what, Renee, I still don't feel myself. I still don't feel like I am back to where I used to be. What do you tell that person? At what point do we say, maybe I should see a professional?
I appreciate that question, and it gives me an opportunity to clarify that a lot of these practices do not make the stressors in our life go away. Sometimes we are really in the midst of some heavy grief and loss in our life, and so these practices will not necessarily diminish that. They can help us continue to move forward in the midst of challenging times, helping us to be a little more centered, a little more grounded, even as we're carrying what feels like a heavy weight for many of us at this particular season. If you find that these kind of practices, beginning to prioritize a little bit of self-care, making sure that this foundation is in place, and as you've said, even then, your mood is still not where it typically would be or where you would want it to be, you're still having these impacts in your life, that's the time to reach out for some help. Again, it's important to remember that you do not have to walk through that alone. We have some tremendous resources available. One great resource through Methodist Healthcare is the Dennis H. Jones Living Well Network, and that's a connecting resource. So anyone can call the Dennis H. Jones Living Well Network at 762-8558 and speak with a mental health provider, have a phone consultation, and then that provider can connect the caller with whatever the appropriate resource is in the community. So that's a tremendous way to make that first call, get connected somewhere, and take that next step toward really fostering good mental health in our lives.
988, that is another one. That's a hotline that's 24/7, right? And do they do the same thing?
So the 988 number is a tremendous resource as well. If anyone listening now or perhaps pulling this up later is in a moment of crisis, you can call or text 988 and speak with someone right away. If you're having thoughts of suicide, thoughts of harming yourself, or in any kind of mental health crisis, 988 is an immediate access to speak with someone.
Renee, we've hit on a bunch of topics. Anything else you want to mention before we let you go?
Never underestimate the power of a good deep breath, or perhaps just a stretch. I know it may seem, if you're in an office with other people, it may seem uncomfortable, but just stretching and coming back into ourself and into the moment, and a good deep breath can again help keep us centered and grounded, even in the midst of all that is going on around us.
All good points there. Renee Dillard, Methodist Le Bonheur Healthcare Director of Employee Assistance. Mental health, we got to protect it. We got to make sure it's at optimal levels. We appreciate your discussion. Again, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. Appreciate it, Renee. Thanks for the conversation.
Thank you. Have a great day.
We had some overnight storms that packed a punch, even a few severe thunderstorm warnings overnight, especially north of Memphis, but most of those storms ended quickly, and now we have a lingering front across the Mid-South. That's going to be the focus for more isolated to scattered showers and thunderstorms as we go through the next few days. Now, it may not be a washout in all areas, and some of you may not see as much as others, but definitely going to be in a warm, somewhat muggy pattern across much of the region. Let's show you what this lingering front will do. It kind of hangs out just to the south of Memphis and eventually will move back north of the area. And as it does, again, there could be showers or thunderstorms on either side of it, but there will be several dry periods as well all the way through the weekend. So let's talk about the short-term. Futurecast shows dry conditions this morning as we go through the afternoon. There could be a pop-up shower or thunderstorm, especially in areas where those storms earlier this morning died out. So even here in Memphis and Shelby County, parts of northeast Mississippi, maybe northeast Arkansas as well. Looks dry tomorrow, temperatures around 70 or so. And then the coverage of showers and storms tomorrow afternoon, a little bit higher, I think, as we go into the afternoon and evening hours. So we'll have to watch for some heavy rain, some gusty wind, nothing severe really with any of this, but certainly there could be some stronger storms that have even some intense lightning as well. You can go back 12 hours and look at this big cluster that came out of Missouri overnight, and it just raced across the Mid-South from the north. The models picked up pretty well on this yesterday and the potential for it, and so they moved through and then just kind of fell apart as they entered into northeast Mississippi. 86 for a high today, clouds, some sunshine, and an isolated downpour. Can't be ruled out in the afternoon. Maybe a storm or two, but I think it's just some isolated spots with heavy rain. Here's a look at high temperatures today. 87 in Covington and Ripley, 86 in Somerville, West Tennessee, warming up. We hit 87 yesterday in Memphis, very close to the same thing today. Maybe as high as 88 or 89 in Tunica and Marks, back toward Corinth around 86. And it looks like upper 80s across much of eastern Arkansas. As we check out the first alert, 7-day forecast, those temperatures will be in the mid 80s, maybe some low 80s. And again, coverage may be a little higher in some spots tomorrow or Thursday. But as we head toward the weekend, just some spotty showers here and there, temperatures hanging in the mid to upper 80s.
Home sellers nationwide are coming off a record-breaking run that led to some of the lowest mortgage rates of all time, combined with some of the highest home prices they've ever seen. But 2023, a much different story. The U.S. housing market has been on a steady 12-month decline, resulting in some dropping home values, dramatically rising interest rates. What is the current state of real estate right now? Let's bring in Ryan Rogers. He's a real estate specialist out of Austin, Texas. He joins us on the digital desk. Ryan, give us the current state of real estate with regards to buyers and sellers. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Thanks for having me. So what I would tell them for buyers specifically is even though rates still may be up a little bit, prices still have come down or starting to flatten. So a year ago, if you were having to overpay, especially in our market, let's say $150,000 on a specific piece of property, and even though the rate was maybe 3.5%, you're maybe paying $150,000 less for that property today, but the rate is of course higher. So it all balances out in many situations. But all across the nation, we're still seeing, decreased buyer activity and in many markets also increased seller activity. So it's different from market to market for sure.
So I'm still trying to understand exactly what, as a buyer and a seller, what you should do first and foremost if you're in the market right now.
So if you're in the market right now as a buyer, I would focus on a couple of things. Is you want to get pre-approved and understand what your payment is going to be. Do that first, because that's number one, to have your ducks in a row, have your financing in order, and be ready to pull the trigger if you do have one, if you do see something that you like. I always recommend a buyer maybe go and look for a house that's been on the market for a while, maybe 30 days or 60 days, because in this market, no matter where you are, properties that have been on the market 30, 60, 90 days, you have a much better opportunity to get a better price because they've already been able to expose themselves to the marketplace and find out, are they overpriced? And so for the buyer, they can be they can be at a more advantage. It's been on the market 30, 60, 90 days. And go maybe look at those first instead of ones that have been on the market just a year or two, because it will be a more competitive situation. For sellers, my number one advice for sellers is don't price the house too high coming out of the gate. You want to price it very aggressively so that you get as many people through the property as quickly as possible. So be realistic when you set that value in today's market. Another thing that a seller needs to be aware of or ready for is if you have a good buyer with a reasonable offer, and they tend to hesitate a little bit, one thing that you can do is offer a rate buy down. So offering some cost assistance to maybe help them, instead of a 6.5% interest rate, maybe they can buy that rate down to maybe about 6%, let's say. And then the last thing for sellers is don't test the market by starting high and then continuing to decrease the price, because it'll get stale and it's not a good strategy.
Ryan Rogers, real estate specialist out of Austin, Texas. We appreciate the points, the finer points here, and some tips out there for buyers and sellers. Thanks very much. I want to show you this here. This is on our website, actionnews5.com. Bad news if you're trying to go to the clerk's office here. You can see it. Statewide credit card outage affects Tennessee County clerk's offices, and this is again, in the copy. It was posted just a few minutes ago here. This is according to Shelby County Clerk Wanda Halpert. Tennessee's clerk's offices experiencing a statewide credit card outage. The state's contract team working on a solution. Customers will be notified once the system is operating again. Customers are able to use cash, however, at all Shelby County Clerk locations. You can read more about it on actionnews5.com. We always love to hear about young entrepreneurs, what they're doing, what they think is great for professional success. Well, there is an event I want to tell you about on May 21st that has young entrepreneurs and their young ideas that's going to be on display. Joined right now on the Action News 5 digital desk by Larissa Gregory. She is Executive Director of Light Memphis. Larissa, good morning to you. I appreciate you being here. First off, for those who are not familiar, tell us what Light Memphis is.
Yeah, good morning, Andrew. Thank you for having me. Light Memphis has been around in Memphis for about 10 years. We're celebrating our 10-year anniversary right now. and we exist to provide Black and Brown students entrepreneurship education to open up skills for them to be successful in their future, for them to launch or scale an existing business, and for them to find fulfilling, full-time, livable wage work. And so we are thrilled to be able to offer our students an opportunity to share what they've done over the last 16 weeks with the community at our event on May 21st at the Renaissance Convention Center.
We're showing pictures from last year's event here, Larissa. So tell me about this event. You mentioned it. It's May 21st, and you have 30 young entrepreneurs from 9th through 12th grade, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have kids from all over the city that have been working over the last 16 weeks to build or scale and launch a business. And so on May 21st at the Renaissance Convention Center, starting at 5 o'clock is when the doors open. The community is welcome to come and to see what these young people have been working on. We're thrilled to present their businesses. They'll have their logos. They'll have product for sale. They'll have a table set up, and any revenue that they generate on that night goes straight back to them and into their business. So we're really excited. And then we'll vote at the very end for the top 3 youth entrepreneurs, and those 3 youth entrepreneurs will receive additional seed funding towards their business. So in the program, they receive up to $1,200 to start their business. And that night on May 21st at the Renaissance Convention Center, they'll earn up to an additional $1,500, $1,000, or $750 to go towards their business in first, second, and third place. Oh, I think I lost your audio, Andrew.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now?
Oh, there you are. Now I can hear you.
Yeah, so I was just curious because there's 30 of them there in this entrepreneurial event there on May 21st. Did they have to have certain requirements? Was there a contest to get these final 30 there?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we recruit new students every semester. We go into schools, we go into community centers, we go and find where there's potential talent, and there's potential talent all over our city. So students go through a process of putting in an interest form, and then they go through a community workshop. And once they complete those 2 things, they're in the program. And it's a commitment of those 16 weeks. So the 30 students that you're going to meet on May 21st are the 30 students that have been able to persist through all 16 weeks of the program.
It sounds amazing. Tell me how the public can get involved, Larissa.
Yeah, there's a couple of ways that you can get involved. First of all, you can give of your time. We're always looking for volunteers. Always looking for volunteers. And for more information on volunteering, you can go to Lite Memphis, L-I-T-E, Memphis.org. We're also always looking for donors and partners. So whether you're an individual donor or you're a corporate organization that's looking to sow into something that's doing great things here in our city, litememphis.org is the place to come. And if you're interested in attending on Sunday, May 21st, it's a free event, and you are more than welcome to join us. There's a QR code on the invitation, I think that you just shared a second ago, Andrew. But that QR code, you can scan that and you can join us on Sunday, May 21st at 5 p.m. And we look forward to having anyone and everyone come join us.
Okay, let's talk about 2 different observances this week. It's Nurses Week and it's Healthcare Week, and we are joined right now to talk about these 2 observances with Tasha Jackson. She is the Chief Nursing Officer at Methodist South Hospital. Good morning, Tasha. Let's talk about these 2 observances this week and how you guys are observing this week. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me this morning. Yes, we are observing Nurses Week as well as Healthcare Week. So we're starting with Nurses Week in celebration of Florence Nightingale, who is the founder of nursing. Her actual birthday is May the 12th. So that is how across America, nurses are celebrating Nurses Week in honor of Florence Nightingale. And then here at Methodist Healthcare, we're also celebrating Healthcare Week since there's a multidisciplinary approach to providing patient care. So not only are we recognizing nurses, we're recognizing all of the healthcare across our Methodist system.
All right, and that's a lot of health care. So Tosha, let's talk about some of the activities planned to celebrate nurses at Methodist.
So we're starting with things such as Nurses Survival Kit. Of course, there's lots of chocolate in these little bags. We're also having food trucks. At Methodist Germantown, we have goats so that the nurses and the rest of the haircut team can go out and pet goats. At our university hospital, there's a dunk tank. And there is a fundraiser where our executives get in a dunk tank and staff can dunk them for a fee. And that goes towards raising money within our humanitarian fund. And that fund goes back to our associates when they're in need or they need help with different things throughout their lives while they're here at Methodist. At Olive Branch, there would be a blessing of the hands, as well as, food trucks, things like that. At Methodist North, they have Wacky Sock Day. So just to have a little fun, each nurse or any healthcare worker can wear their wacky socks and display them on social media. And then, of course, at Le Bonheur, we're doing various things at Le Bonheur as well. And they also have wacky socks, and they'll be delivering food and candy to all the nurses throughout the week. Lots of fun.
Okay, so let's move over to Healthcare Week activities.
So what we're doing for Healthcare Week is we're having picnics. Every associate has a T-shirt, and you can see my T-shirt, you may not. But we gave associates T-shirts where we're all celebrating Healthcare Week and having outdoor picnics with music, great celebration. And that is for all shifts. We tend to celebrate day shift, night shift, weekend shift. So we will pretty much be partnering all week. Now, we will be taking care of patients. So that will not go unnoticed. We still will provide high patient care, high quality patient care, but we still want to make sure we celebrate all of our associates and a multidisciplinary team that comes together to take care of our patients. Post-pandemic, it's been hard coming out of COVID and really celebrating things. Well, now we're trying to, at Methodist Le Bonheur Healthcare, celebrate our workers and make sure they know that they are appreciated for everything that they do.
Anything else you'd like to mention before we let you go?
I would just like to say, if you know a nurse and you're on social media or you pass a nurse in the hallway, just thank a nurse this week. And then if you go along your day, just thank a healthcare worker. Sometimes just a simple thank you will just make our day and just brighten our load a little bit. So just thank a nurse. And that is all I have. Thank you for having me today.
You got it. Well, listen, Tosha Jackson, we appreciate you and everything that you do, along with your staff there at Methodist Le Bonheur Hospitals and Healthcare. Have a great week, Nurses Week, Healthcare Week. Enjoy the week and all the festivities. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, May is Mental Health Month. How is your mental health these days? There's always some form of news out there that addresses mental health, especially coming out of the pandemic here, 3 years since the pandemic began. We're always focused a lot more on mental health. In fact, Mental Health America, which is the nation's leading community-based nonprofit, has dedicated to addressing the needs of those living with mental illness and is encouraging everyone to consider how the world around them affects their mental health, from their neighbors to genetics. Let's talk more about this with the president and CEO of Mental Health America. Schroeder Stribling is joining us on the digital desk. I appreciate you joining us and telling us what apparently you have some data when it comes to mental health in 2022. Really interested in hearing some of your data. Good morning.
Good morning, and thanks for having me, and thanks for highlighting this month. So you're correct, May is Mental Health Month. This is a tradition that was started by Mental Health America in 1949, and we look at this as a really great annual reminder and opportunity to check in on our mental health and the mental health and well-being of our loved ones, our friends, our neighbors, and our communities. And in conjunction with the start of Mental Health Month, we have released a report today that talks about the data from our National Prevention and Screening Program, which was launched in 2014. So about 6.3 million people came to take a self-test and check in on their mental health in 2022. And the results that we got were concerning, especially with regard to youth. They're consistent with what we've seen before, but they really tell us a great deal about who's in the most distress, and they draw our attention especially to folks who are 24 years and younger.
Schroeder, I have two older teenagers, and they constantly tell me a couple of things. They tell me that social media and the phone devices, smartphones, whatever, tablets, they seem to be, when it comes to mental health issues and things that distract or hurt their mental health, those two issues, social media and screens or devices like an iPhone or any kind of smartphone, really hurt. Based upon your research and whether it's this survey and others, is that what you're seeing?
You are absolutely right that there's a lot of conversation about what is the role of social media in the youth mental health crisis. And no doubt there is a correlation. And so I think your kids are right, and they're insightful to know that the social media and technology is having an effect on their mental health. One of the things that we do know is that about, as I mentioned, about 3/4 of those 6.3 million screeners were youth. And the most popular screen that people take is for depression. Anxiety comes next. And about half of the youth who took a screen for depression reported that they were having frequent thoughts of suicide. So that gives us a sense of the degree of the problem. And then when you ask people, what are the reasons for their distress? The three most popular answers given, and remember this is largely from young people, are concerns about body image, self-image, and relationships. And when we think about social media, certainly those issues of body image and self-image and relationships are all impacted by social media, which is mediating a lot of those relationships and which is giving youth a lot of sometimes distressing feedback about their self-image or their self-worth or their body image. So I think it is definitely one of the contributing factors and something for us to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a major contributing factor for sure. It's really interesting to hear some of that data coming from your screening data, Mental Health America. I understand that housing stability and home environment also plays a pretty large part of our mental health role. Explain that to me.
Yes, so each year we choose a theme for Mental Health Month, and this year our theme is Look Around and Look Within. So in addition to this being a reminder for folks to check in on their own mental health, it's a reminder to think about how the natural and built environments around us are affecting our mental health. Now, there are some things that we have greater control over than others. Housing stability, sometimes we have greater control over that, but safety in the home, health in the home, where we can make positive changes, we want to encourage people to do that. So as we do every year for Mental Health Month, we've published a toolkit, and this year's toolkit is about looking around and looking within, helps people understand how they can get to that screening, take a self-test, check in on their own mental health, but also what they can do with the natural environment around them. And that could be as simple as changing the setup up of the room that you live in or the apartment where you are, or spending time outside. And outside doesn't mean necessarily that you have to get to a national park. It might just mean that you're able to spend a little bit of outdoor time. For instance, I grew up in a small apartment in New York City, and there was a little tiny porch that we had, but it allowed for some outdoor time. So that's important to people's mental health. And those are the kind of tips and tricks that you'll find in our toolkit for this year.
You know, Schroeder, you stole my question there, because I was talking about Mother Nature with my kids, and they always love, whether it's a bike ride, going to a park. In Memphis, we have one of the largest urban parks in America. It's Shelby Farms Park. But our surrounding areas, there's tons of parks where people go and they can just walk and connect with nature and get, I guess, a clearer mind, just kind of just get away from the hustle and bustle of whether they're connected on a device or in classrooms or various settings, work, what have you. Having that Mother Nature connection can, I would think, really clear the mind a lot. Is that what you're seeing in some of your research? And what else are you seeing, ways that people can find maybe some good habits?
Well, you've really put your finger on something very important. Outside time and getting outdoors is enormously important to our mental health. There's lots of research that tells us. And once again, this does not have to be a national park. Just any outdoor time is good for folks. In fact, this May, we are partnered up with LL Bean for a challenge about outdoor time, and we're hoping to get people to log 500,000 hours of time spent outdoors during May. Could be any kind of outdoors, and you can find at our website, mhanational.org, you can find more information about our LL Bean challenge to spend time outdoors. Pardon me. So that's enormously important. The other thing that I would recommend is that we have a new book out in addition to our May Mental Health Toolkit. And our book is called Where to Start. And the title really says it all. It's about how to start thinking about mental health and mental health in your own life, how to be aware of what supports you best in your own mental health, and how to attend to our well-being, as well as checking in on that of our loved ones and family members and others.
You and I are on the same wavelength here, because my question now is, and I don't want to give the book away, but if there were, let's say, 3 bullet points about where people can begin, and we've already mentioned, you know, clearing your mind, going on a walk or somewhere, maybe in a park or something like that. If you were to give people maybe 3 bullet points on how to start bettering your mental health, and we have thousands of people that watch us each and every morning here, where would you start with those 3 bullet points?
Well, the first, I think, and the most important is to get informed, is to get information. So just like we would about our bodily and our physical health, we need information so that we can take care of our mental health. And we need to know how we can check in on our mental health. So you can find a lot of information about mental health in general at our website, mhanational.org, or in the book. But the other thing that you can find is a link to our National Prevention and Screening Program. And that's the program where the free and anonymous platform that I mentioned before, where people can take any one of 11 validated tests, self-tests, to get more insight about how they're doing and to learn a little bit about their own mental health. So I think those are the most important things to start with. And then the last thing I would mention is to intervene or take action early. If you have signs of distress for yourself, if you're noticing changes in your mood, your appetite, your sleeping, your behavior that are concerning to you, get help early. So starting might be about taking a mental health test or screening, might also be about talking to a trusted loved one or sharing with someone, a therapist perhaps, how you're feeling, to see about getting help. So getting help early. And if you do find yourself in crisis, very important to know that we have a new resource. It's about a year old now, 988. For anyone who doesn't know about this new number, you can call or text 988 for a mental health crisis. And the goal is to have a mental health response to a mental health crisis. So that's another important resource that we like to get out during this Awareness Month.
Schroeder Stribling with Mental Health Awareness, or Mental Health America, the president and CEO. Really appreciate our conversation, and I think we really helped people kind of address this issue and help them if they need help out there, and just really kind of being in the know when it comes to what to do and some of the problems. Thanks very much.
Thanks so much for having me.
That does it for us here in the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Have yourself a wonderful afternoon. We got Action News 5's midday report with Ariana Poindexter coming to you at the top of the hour. We start the Digital Desk at a new time, 7 o'clock each and every weekday morning, so make sure you join us then. Tomorrow morning, Wednesday, we'll see you.